Okay. Peace YouTube. This is FleurBrun coming to you today. And I think I'm live. Finally, I actually get a chance to use my computer today. Check on in. Hold on. I have like a. I'm not even sure if I'm live. Let me know if you can see me, y'all. Check on in. You can see me? Yay. Okay. Oh my gosh, I love this so much more on my computer. Can you see me clearly? Don't laugh at me, y'all. You never see me use my computer. It's rare. Hold on, it's getting Monday. I'm going to be really gross. Sorry. Hello, hello. Peace, everyone. Join on in. Check on in. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I am so happy, y'all. Sorry. I have something in my teeth, and I should actually address that before I even get on here, y'all. My mother would have been like, that is so disgusting. That's so disrespectful. It's so not ladylike. Big up to moms. Let me take a sip for the haters. You miss me, haters? Check on in, y'all. You can hear me. Yay. Dallas is in the house. I miss Texas. You know what, y'all? I really liked living in Texas. I think it was amazing. It was hot, though. Like, it was really, really hot, right? So check on in. How's the temperature? It's cool where I am. I'm on my little swing. It's windy. It's a little, actually, the temperature I think is like 75. So I'm feeling, I got the coffee, y'all. And I'm going to talk about blood types. You wanted me to come on here and talk about blood types. So I'm on here with y'all. This is my favorite topic, Chicago in the mother freaking house. I just want to say that I was conceived in Chicago. My parents were on a little furlough. Born in New York, but conceived in Chicago. Does that matter? I think it does, right? The ley line that you were zested at, created at. It's sad I even know this, right? It's a little too much information. We're Creole. We don't really have hang-ups when it comes to stuff like that. Check on in. Oh, it's 97 in Huntsville, Alabama. It's hot. Muy quente. Trop froid. No, trop chaud. Trop chaud. In French, it's trop. It's too hot, right? Trop chaud. Muy caliente. Spanish. And muy quente in Portuguese. I like that I can kind of translate things in a couple languages. Not fully. Don't get it twisted, y'all. My cousin said my French is garbage. Oh, let me fix myself. How does this work? My computer's reversed, so I'm like on this side. I can't look at it on this side. I gotta look at it on this side. Okay. I have a bee that wants my coffee. St. Louis is in the motherfucking house. Check on in, y'all. I have notes. I'm using technology. I am ready to get down and dirty with the blood types. I got time. My dogs are calm. I saw the Bird Box movie. That was crazy. Glowing on. Appreciate it, y'all. I'm feeling great. It's beautiful. My woodchuck is Chucky. Chuck. His name is Chuck. I picked Chuck. Big up to Chuck is chilling, y'all. I can't reverse my camera. Can I reverse my camera on this? I don't know that I can. I don't know how to do it on this, y'all. This computer is different. I don't know how to do it, y'all. I wanted you to see Chuck. Chuck is out here chilling by the pond. his girlfriend was over there earlier, scurrying. What up, Chuck? Look at he's chilling over there. I'm so happy when he's outside. I feel supported. Okay. Check on it. And I like to wait until we get to at least 500. I have my notes. I have notes today, y'all. We're going to talk about bloodlines. What up? Your first live? Starfire? Hey, Starfire. I hope I don't disappoint. I'm a little over the top, Starfire. I can be really inappropriate, so please don't judge me. I'm not love and light. Let me give PSA. For those who don't know me, I'm not loving. Canada's in the mother freaking house. I'm not love and light, y'all. I'm really inappropriate. I'm Creole from the Caribbean South America franchise. I don't know. I say things that are inappropriate. That's why, I'm restricted on on this hot block on YouTube. I got big tetas, so people always think that I'm a thought, but really I'm not. If you did statistics, you would understand that people that are the most busty are actually the most conservative when it comes to not conservative, least promiscuous, if that's if you wanted that fun fact. I'm feeling myself. I got coffee. I went out to my favorite barista, Jacksonville, in the motherfucking house. I miss Florida. I miss everywhere that I've lived. You know that? We're going to talk about ley lines. We're going to talk about your cosmic heritage in regards to blood types. You guys like when I talk about blood types. It used to be years ago, and it almost seems like so long. I've talked about blood types, oh gosh, for years. When I was young in research, straight out of college, my university, I went into heritage and genetics, but I kind of focused on, many of you know this already, but I focused on dementia, like forms of dementia, like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. But because I went into that form of research, and my colleagues, big up to my old colleagues who I still talk to, big up to Charlie. His wife has finally let him talk to me. She realizes I'm a girl's girl. She has nothing to worry about with me. I'm all about C Star. I'm one friend that I'm totally loyal to the C Stars, 1000%. So, I went into research as a young gal, and I just had all this information that at the time nobody even cared about. I was always fascinated. That's why I wanted to it. My mom they popping off shots. Sachet. They popping off shots already, y'all. Anyway. Yeah, I wanted to research. My mom hooked me up with a gig many years ago in research. We used to look at like alien autopsies at my job, and I used to take like 3-hour lunches, but because I keys to the research lab that I used to work for. Big up to Westchester County, where I used to work. So I know all these things about genetics, and I really didn't have anyone to share it with until I got on YouTube. And you guys actually wanted to hear it. So I have, and then also because I have all that information and then years of being in the field, and I was young. I graduated high school really young, y'all. Not super young, but like 17. So I went to college at 17. And I was really, I guess you would say geeky. I'm a little bit more, I'm a geek still. And because of that, I was like fascinated with I was a contactee. I was fascinated with alien stuff. So I always researched the things that I was fascinated with. Even though other people at the time didn't care. My girlfriends did. Like if they asked certain things, like when we were all trying to find, we were all getting married or finding husbands, I would always have great, like, how do you say, but like requirements, like things to look at, like to see if your genealogy was suitable to your partner. Even with choosing my husband, he would say he chose me, but I chose him. Cheers. Um, there were certain factors. I wanted someone who had native bloodline like myself. Many of you know I'm over 60% indigenous, Carib, Arawak, with little tangibles of Taino, okay, from South America via the Caribbean and also in Central, because obviously my family had a migrational pattern all throughout the Americas. That's why you don't hear me really, like many of you know, um, by in the north of Brazil, by French Guyana, in Cayenne, if you know, you know, and that border. And then they migrated into Panama, well, first Venezuela, then Panama, then obviously Martinique and Guadeloupe, and St. Lucia, and then Cuba, and then into America. That's why I just say that I'm from the Americas. I'm over 60% of my indigenous um, uh, ancestry. We didn't mix. We didn't get infiltrated as much as many other groups. So I still have a lot of the phenotype, the disposition, and a lot of the knowledge that was given throughout my family. And then I married into a family that also was indigenous to the northern hemisphere of the Americas. And his family is a high quantity of Cherokee and Blackfoot. And I purposefully chose him because I wanted my children to have the Americas blood lineage. I wanted them to have the lineage of the Americas so that they could hold um, that quality, because when you live in the right hemisphere to your indigenous ancestors, it does um, it does allow for you to have a greater interface with nature. Nature tends to recognize you if nature is real, because we know that a lot of the trees and a lot of the foliage, some of the things that you think that you eat that are native aren't native. So, but if they are indigenous to Americas, we do really well. So I thought I'd share that fun fact with you. If you don't know, if you're new to my channel, but for all you OGs who know what time it is, you know how FleurBrun gets down. So we're going to discuss this today. I'm going to discuss the different bloodlines, blood lineages, how it matters right now as we're going into the Galactic Exodus X, and how it interrelates with you hemispherically. And you know, like I said, our I have a girlfriend whose family was. That's why I have such a wonderful connection to um, the people in Ireland. Right? She had a lot of high quality of Irish in her bloodline, along with some of the other European uh, um, mixtures, right? And I remember, this is many years ago. I remember she used to have all these dreams, right? Of like these grassy hills, like I'm looking at now, so beautiful. These grassy hillsides. She used to have dreams all the time of um, like different kinds of fairies and beings that she's never seen before. And it was from when she was a little girl, because I've known her from when we were little. And it wasn't until she became an adult that she said, screw this. I'm going to go visit my family's homeland. Let me tell you, y'all, I get chills just telling you this, right? So she goes to Ireland. I think she was in Shannon first, on the outskirts of Shannon. She met her husband in Dublin, y'all. She had dreamt about him. Oh, I'm getting chills. Are you getting chills, y'all? Oh, I'm getting chills. She had dreamt about him from a little girl. Oh my God, down to like his hair pattern. Y'all, she got there and she remembered, like she was, I think she landed in Shannon, if I'm not mistaken. She can correct me if she's in the chat. I don't know if she's in the chat. Sometimes she's in here. She landed in Shannon, I think, and then when she got there, she recognized everything. This is why I say where you come from matters, because blood lineage, though many of us travel and are nomadic, it does matter where your ancestors kind of sat on a ley line for long periods of time, because it connects to you cellularly, and cellularly because of that, especially if they were buried on the land. And we'll talk about them trying not to bury people on land and trying to embalm you to take the blood out of your body, and to also cremate you so that the land does not have a connection to you cellularly. That's important. So anyway, she met her husband, I think in Dublin. He's really cute. I think it's Patrick. I call him another name. I'm not going to say his nickname. His name is Patrick. Isn't that ironic, right? Patrick. Yeah, Patrick. But I call him something else. That's why it took me a minute to remember. And she met him. She had a dream about him. But when she landed on the site, her cells woke up. She used to have really weird, like pains in her body, like odd things, even from a little girl. Like she was just not, her body, it just did not sit well in America, right? And as soon as she, now she lives back here, but I share this all this. I'm just sharing with you because we're going to get into blood types and lineage, cosmic lineage, and how it how it's how it affects you hemispherically, and why it's important for you to touch down on ley lines. Me personally, I think this that your ancestors used to live on, especially for long periods of time. Okay, that's why you see me very often go in throughout the Americas. My ancestry is from the Americas, both sides. I have some other lineage, like a percentage, and I know where they're from. And it's interesting because as much as my name is very French, right? And my tongue, my first language is French, and my ancestors were supposedly French. I'm going to share this before we get to 500 because I think it's interesting as we talk about lineage and how it really interfaces and how it kind of characteristically links you to a cosmic heritage. Um, what was I saying? Um, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. I was just saying something. Goodness gracious. What was I saying, y'all? I lost my train of thought. Oh my god, the coffee's got me. And then we're gonna talk about what was I just talking about? Do you guys know? Are you even in the chat? I just had a zap. They just zapped my brain. Elon Musk. I blame Elon Musky Dusty. Um oh, I blame Elon Musky Dusty for zapping me. He's triangulating me with his technology. Okay. Um I'm trying to fix my shirt. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So, uh, yeah. So I always thought. Now you know it's crazy because I had my DNA already analyzed when I worked in research before it was very popular, and I had it independently done by a company that I trusted, and it was outside of the country because I don't trust them stockpiling our information. That's why I know my native lineage. If I would have got it inside the States at the time it was popular, they wouldn't have given me my native lineage because they don't want to recognize that a lot of melanated people are from, United States, and from the Americas. Anyway, so I thought like the little bit of, I thought that, because my family had also lived in Marseille in France, the European aspect of them, I assumed that because I had a French name, I had a French language, that if I had any European in me, it was definitely going to be French. No, y'all. You know, it's interesting. I'm gonna share this with you because it's important because people know who you are even if you don't. So many years ago, if you remember, big up to our homegirls in Holland. I used to be on this podcast in Holland. Big up to the homies in Holland. I forgot their names. Beautiful sea stars from there. And if many of you know, I had a professor. Do you remember what my professor's name was? Professor what? Leonard Jeffries. Right? And Professor Jeffries, why it's all interrelated is because I was picked up on this podcast not too many years. I mean, years after I had already stopped being in the field. I had become a mother, so I was a stay-at-home mother. But I was picked up at this podcast in Holland, and I remember all of these people in the Netherlands loved me. Oh my gosh. Like I was getting contact by people in the Netherlands all over the place. Like I'd meet some people from Norway. Big up to you remember you used to watch my old YouTube when I was always in Orlando, and you remember Thomas. Thomas was from Norway, right? And me and Thomas got along really, really well, like from the Getty up. And then I would meet people from like Norway, from Holland, um, from where else? From the Netherlands. Anyway, why do I share this with you, y'all? Why do I share this? Because it was interesting that I would meet all these people from these areas. I'm talking until we get to 500, y'all, and then I'll start. I would meet all these people, and they just adored me. And I had like a weird connection to them. And then I remember years even before these ladies contacted me, they said there was this woman online in, I don't think it was Holland. It was in, I think it was in, it might have been Holland. It might have been. Or was it Norway? It might have been Norway or Holland, right? And she was a talk show host or something. She did radio, and they said that I sounded like her. Like I sounded like her when they'd hear me. I was so it was so similar. So check this out. So when I actually accessed my information on my lineage after the fact, when I say that I speak French, my family had migrated. The ones who were in Europe, I assumed were from France because they had lived in Marseille for generations. They weren't from France, y'all. They were from the Netherlands. Now, why does that matter? Because remember, I had an imprint to people from that background just naturally. They had a natural propensity to have a kinship with me. It was like I said, it was uncanny because I didn't really question it because I remember I'm very international because I come from a first generation American, but I come from a foreign lineage. I connect to a lot of people who are foreign. Okay, so that it's a very international platform. But because I had the genetics of those from Norway, the little bit of European in me, that's why they had a connection to me genetically. There's a genetic um, pheromone that you give off. So when you are mixed with a certain group of people, whether it's indigenous, whether it's from Africa, different areas in Africa, Europe, places in Asia, you will give off. When people say, "I don't know who I am," you do, but you have to overstand and see above your conscious pay grade. So you have to break out of the box of all of the things that Willy Wonka and his League of Doom have imprinted on you through social engineering, right? So most of us are limited to what only social media tells you, or what only those people in your family who are most likely socially engineered as well, they're share with you. But the fact of the matter is that I was already knowing or reminded of my lineage. Now, in South America, you very, very much know when I go into Brazil, big up to our family in Brazil, Bontage, um, that many of you know that when I first went back, because remember, my family had moved out of South America I don't even think it was only one generation out. I thought it was two, but it's not because my grandmother had lived there. So when I had gone back, I told you that when I landed in Brazil, northern Brazil, big up to Bahia, I recognized the smells. Excuse me, hold on. I recognized the smells. I recognized like I had a what do you call it? Like it's not deja vu, but it's a hemispheric deja vu where you recognize the area even if you've not been there personally, you personally, because remember the cells of our ancestors are in us, and that's why it's not good for us to mix with people who are enemies to our lineage, because then you have people, and you heard me talk about this a lot of times, that when you merge into other bloodlines that have beef, and like let's say back in the days the Irish, right? I'll use them because I'm going to go into color and issues within the Americas with people mixing with the wrong lineage. um let's say you were in Ireland and you had family that's from Shannon and family that's from Dublin. Back in the days, they had a lot of beef, religious beef between, I think, the Protestants and the Catholics, and that beef. Then you merge within that bloodline, and the beef still exists cellularly. So it can show up as physical um, issues and limitations. It can show up as psychological, non-hemispheric, almost being bipolar or depressed. Because when you have beef within lineages, blood does not differentiate. So when you blend the blood of enemies, you will have issues show up within the dynamics of your um, your DNA. And I always say this, like, that's why in United Fakes, some of us who are a little older, you remember we have our blood types on our paperwork, right? On our birth certificates. Also, in a lot of places, they still have their blood types on their paperwork. It is not done anymore. That back in the days, even to get married, you would have to get your blood type before you wanted to get married. Remember, a lot of movies, if you look at a lot of the older movies, what they say, hey, we're getting married, let's go get our blood tests. They don't do that anymore because they want you to merge with people that are non balanced, alchemically balanced with you. So we'll talk about that too. So I think I'm going to start. There's like a bee that wants the bee wants my coffee. I already think I started the conversation before I started, right? So let's get into it. I took notes, y'all. You'd be so proud of me. Bye. Come over here. Bye. Bye is wild. Bye. Come on. Stay over here, babe. Okay. Hold on. Bye. Hold on. Oh my gosh. It is a simulation. As soon as I'm about to start something, it will have beings show up that will try to distract me before I talk about it. Bye. You're gonna go inside, babe. Okay, Fi's chilling. The bee's here. I know a bee's here, y'all. I'm not gonna swat at it because I understand. We need the bees. Okay, so let me get my notes before we start. I have a few minutes. Oh my God. The neighbors are coming up the road, down the road. It's never ending in this simulation, y'all. Hey, New Diamonds. New Diamonds is in the house. Hey, New Diamonds. We were supposed to do a video, New Diamonds. I totally forgot until I saw you here. Thank you, my lovies. Okay, hold on. All right, if my neighbors come up, y'all, everybody wants to talk to FleurBrun. I'm really super social. So, love you too, mama. Mwah. Okay, let's get the notes out, y'all. We're not even at 500. Listen, let me say this, y'all. I can't help how YouTube is a hater. Even though I've given a lot of content over the years and I have been really consistent, YouTube does not send out your what do you call it? Your your things. It sends out notifications. I can't help that. I don't know why it does that. I do know why, but I'm trying to be positive. They don't send it out, so you'll get this message in this video when you get the video. Okay, I can't help it. There's nothing I can do. What you could do is, if you're not getting notifications, you can just click off. You can click off notifications and then click it back on. Maybe they'll do something. I'm not, y'all. You already know that I'm not techie. I'm trying to get better, right? Because I have some techie people like Delma Shea, who's part of my group. She's really techie. She's really helps me because I'm a little remedial in that aspect. And I can't really tell you how to get the messages properly, but I'll try. Hold on, y'all. I'm getting my notes. Oh my God, I have a lot of notes. Okay. All right, so we're going to get into blood types, y'all. Hey, let me see how everybody's doing. Hello, my lovers. I said lovers. Lovers. No comment. I was going to say something inappropriate, but I'm behaving today, at least early in the video. Usually I misbehave later in the video. Okay. Usually later. I'm going to behave early in the video. Love and light. All right. So we're going to talk about blood lineage, blood types, cosmic heritage. Okay. What qualifies me? Absolutely mother freaking nothing. Okay. Like I say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm a quack. I am sometimes a trans frog. You listen to this message. You should or you shouldn't. It's really on you. And I always say you should do your due diligence to fact check me, because that will make the information more relative and it will stick to you, because you would have been the one to kind of make it more concrete or more tangible in your life. Okay. So you like my super buns? Remember that video? I rock rough and tough with my Afro puff spray. Rock on. That's like my swing. You know you can do like dancing, right? Boom, boom, boom. Oh, remember that boom, boom, boom. Ayo. Okay, I'm really corny, and I'm a nerd, y'all. Big ups to everybody in every hemisphere. Okay, so we're going to talk about blood types, how it interrelates, and how I actually believe that the Exodus X has very much to do with your hemispheric um, ley lines. And that's also why they're restricting people from traveling from certain places. All right, so let's get into it. Let me put some gloss on and gloss it up before I start. You like the blue? Thank you, y'all. Like my buns and my blue. Like my Harry Potter earrings. My it has like potion. It has a potion inside. Okay. So, I've always talked about how very much important alchemically how we should be very mindful how we interface alchemically within the dynamics of our um, within the simulation. How you show up, what you chose to be, is very much important for how you interface on your ley lines. Okay. Um, I've talked about blood types and certain types of dynamics with blood types. So I'll kind of go over that now with you. And it's important. I've always talked about the importance of even the interface we have with people interpersonally, with friends. Where's my dogs? Where's my other dog? Oh, she's inside. Babette? She's inside? Okay. Um, I never know what my dogs are. How important it is for us to know who we are so that we have a better understanding and that we can um, kind of um, play along with the alchemy of the interface we have inside of this firmament. Okay. So, and also I'm going to go into also the Chinese animals too, because that's another part that's also connected to your ley lines and how we interface and why we've come and we were born and we checked in a specific ley line inside of this interdimensional uh, 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 like interdimensional space, right? Okay. And then we're going to talk about the mirror beings because I'm going to talk about how negative roots, I personally think, were extracted from the mirror world and brought into this world, this dimensional world. It's because we live in a multi-dimensional space within our simulation, and I actually think that negative roots was extracted out in their mirror world and brought inside of a world where they are the what you perceive to be the minorities in a sea of positive roots. Okay. In their world, it was probably the opposite. Okay. So we'll talk about that a little later. So, you know, many of you know that why I've always made it a point to talk about your blood types is because it allows for you to understand and understand what your dynamics are as far as your genetics is concerned, right? And knowing that is important. Like I said, when I was very young, I I got into genetics in my primary years. I'm getting a text already. In my primary years, I got into genetics, and by chance, I learned all this wonderful information that wasn't really relative at the time. Nobody really cared. I cared, but people around me didn't really care. Friends occasionally, if they were going to get married or have children, they'd come to me to kind of discuss certain things that I had learned within my research and into my field, right? So I talk about all the time, when we talk about like, we're going to go into like B, A, B, B, O, and then we'll talk about the roots as negative and positive, how it interrelates and how it affects you genetically, and also the ley lines, hemispheric ley lines that are more conducive or non-conducive to you. Okay, um, so we'll talk about, let's go into like bees. I talked about bees before, right? And I talked about how bees are very sensitive because also, and I've also spoken about this, is that Willy Wonka is League of Doom, which is the government. Please let them know who I'm talking about when I say Willy Wonka, because we have new people to us and they may not know what I reference as Willy Wonka and their League of Doom. They'll tell you who that is and how they have created um, uh, nutritional bioweapons for specific blood types. Okay, and they have set those weaponries and on specific ley lines that they want to control the health and the lifespan of particular bloodlines. Okay, so we'll talk about the bees, the Asiatics, because bees, each of the different types have specific ley lines that they generally come from. Right, it's almost like we're in a dome, right? And there's specific blood types on the perimeters of the dome. Okay, so B I would liken to being part of the Asiatics. So B is generally most, now mind you, many of you have migrated. So we're going to talk about your migration patterns and why you may house these blood types, okay? And when I talk about blood types, you will also have to take into consideration, unless you are from some of the more domineering genetics, or you come from a lineage where you've held that blood type for like I'm an O positive. Many of you know I'm indigenous to the Americas, and O positive, I can go back because we only mated with O positive. I can go back six or because blood types were only noted and became a concept. I think in the 30s, if I'm not mistaken. Can someone remind me? I think it was the 20s or 30s, and that was Chuck's girlfriend's here, y'all. Uh-oh. Chuck, don't come over here. Oh no, Chuck. Five. Chuck is coming over here. Oh my God. Oh, sorry, y'all. Chuck is coming over here and Fi is about to run down there. Fi, don't do it. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so um go inside, Fi. Okay. Your blood types matter, and even though you house certain blood types, unless you're generationally the same blood type, I'm sorry, I'm so distracted because I'm outside in nature. I love these woodchucks, y'all. I've never lived around woodchucks, and many of you know I'm obsessed with Chuck. I love Chuck. I love the woodchucks. Anyway, I, that's like my thing. I'm a really big animal person. And also, what you'll realize is people who come from indigenous groups to specific areas have more of a fascination and connection to nature. You'll see that a lot of times. And people who have less of a connection to nature generally come from places that are higher in technology, like bees. Okay, so bees generally are Asiatics. Asiatics don't only come. Now, when I say Asiatics, the consensus, because you've been socially engineered to only think that Asiatics are only phenotype people who are more so fairer skinned, milky in complexion, maybe yellowish in complexion, and also have slanted eyes, beautiful eyes, very slanted eyes, very similar to some of the galactics, like some of the Zetas and the Greys, and a lot of the ETs have this disposition with their eyes, just bigger but more slanted, right? And when I say Asiatics, you only attribute Asiatics to being like Koreans, uh, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, people from Thailand. But you don't realize that when I say Asiatics, Indians are in that group, and Indians have a huge population of highly melanated people. And um, when I'm saying highly melanated, as dark as those Aboriginals that are in native to Australia, and with very Negro type of phenotype. So when I say Asiatics and I say B, most of you only think of Asiatics as far as fair skinned, very slanted eyed people, but Asiatics does also include Indians, and Indians have phenotypes that are very Negro, and also ancient ancient Asiatics were very dark skinned as well, with very coiled hair. So be careful when I start going into phenotypes as it relates to people, because even though what has been structurally or created or hybridized now socially within the dynamics of how you perceive Asiatics, there is a sub tier. It's actually not sub, it's more domineering. And that is why you see, when I discuss bees in the northern hemisphere of the Americas, you're going to realize that when there was this a colonizing group that came in order not to cause a shock to the system of the people that they were going to conquer and colonize, they did bring in migrant servants from other areas that were very similar in phenotype in order to take over those land masses, in order to make it so that it didn't look so overt for the colonistic ways. So do know that, like in the Caribbean, what we call coolies, big up to my Caribbean people. A lot of times when I was younger, they used to call me coolie girl because I look very phenotypically mixed with Indian and African to people in the Caribbean. So coolies in Caribbean terms is related to those who have immigrant families that are mixed with Indian from India. Okay. So some of you who are not from the Caribbean, I'm sharing terminology that you may not be used to or know, but I'm sharing it because it all matters. Okay. So when I talk about bees, y'all, I got to remind you that there are going to be people inside of our chat that are bees that don't look Asiatic in the way that's stereotypically promoted. Okay. So I just wanted to say that. Okay. So bees, A's hemispherically, and also I have to denote A's to me are the oldest, even though they'll say O's are. I disagree in certain aspects. Genetically, I disagree. And it depends on the O if it's positive or negative. But A's generally are from Europe. European. Now, Europe is not a continent. Many of you say that because your ignorant teachers and your social education system has created lies of mass destruction, because Europe is not a continent. Eurasia is a continent. Okay? Eurasia. If you've ever been to Europe, it's a very small place, and many of the countries are very tiny, and you can drive around in a day and go from place to place. It is not a continent, even though they want to tell you that because they want to create this grandiose thought of it. But it is Eurasia, which is the continent. Okay, so A and AB is that melding of the two, with Europe and the Asiatic bloodlines melded, the ABs. Okay. So A's generally are from Europe. If you have A's that are looking phenotypically darker skin, that does not mean anything, because if you've looked at many of my shares, Europeans were not always fair skinned. And when you talk about the Moors and those who were those who were ancient Europeans, they were dark skinned, coiled hair, tight coiled hair people. And if you've ever been to Europe and you've gone to the southern part of Europe, you can also see Africa, Morocco right across. And you know that the Moors were supposedly from Morocco, at least the Morocco that used to be the capital of the United States of America. Because remember, back in the days, I think it was in the 1700s, and even my Moorish people in here have more historical information about this, but Morocco used to be the capital of the Americas. If you know, you know. Okay. So when I mention A's are, even though I'm telling you A's are from Europe, those are the Moorish bloodlines. So if you get people in the northern hemisphere of the Americas that are what you typically call African America, which is a political term that was created to keep people in a type of mental psychosis or amnesia, so that they don't have any connection to where they originally came from. So A's are European, okay? But European could mean melanated as well, or it can mean fair-skinned European, okay? And a lot of times you don't realize that many what you perceive to be European people are very light-skinned brown people, okay? Rudolph of Germany goes on to this. I love him for talking about this. He talks about that many of the lunars in the northern hemisphere of the Americas are just very light-skinned brown people, okay? People that used to be passing back in the days, in Jim Crow days. Okay, so we talked about B's being Asiatics, we talked about A's being Europeans, and we talk about O's, right? AB is also the melding of two, right? So I talked about the Europeans and also the B's, which are the Asiatics. And Asiatics are not just the phenotype of slanted eyes and light skin. They can be of Indians who come very, very dark and sometimes very thick hair. Okay, coiled hair. Okay. So the O's, the blood type, the main blood type of the Americas is O. Okay. O's are from the Americas. If you have O's and you're from the Americas, you are most likely native to the Americas. Okay. Whether you are what they've termed you as African American, we know in the Caribbean and also in South America that we were here for generations before colonizers came. And it's all in South America. South America, even in Argentina. Big ups my Argentinians. I don't know where they're labeling you as like the most racist place. I've been to Argentina and they are so sweet and kind. And I brought my melanated children there and I was treated amazing. And there's some conversation about that I'll have later, why they're doing that, but I won't give that away right now because you got the Zeros over there causing wreck and I don't want them to mess up our live feed. Okay. So O's generally are the blood type, Central America, South America, and in Northern America. Okay. Now, North America going towards Canada, you're going to get a lot more B's and A's. Why? Because where is Canada located? Canada's closer, going closer to Europe. As you get closer, and once you get into like Alaska, you get closer to Russia, right? And Russia's right across, right? So once you start getting closer there, you're going to start getting more of like A's and B's, because remember I talked about Russia's actually closer. What is it? Mongolia is right there at the border of Russia and Asia. And if you've ever seen these beautiful people, I actually think they're really beautiful Europeans. You ever see the combination of the women on the border of Mongol and like Russia? They almost look Asian and European, right? Very beautiful fusion of people. I don't know if you've ever seen that. So if you ever seen, I don't know, if you watch National Geographics, if you've gone down to that part of Europe, the most northern part of Europe, you're going to see that melding of those two people. Very unique combination. It's quite interesting to see that too. Okay. So Bjork. yeah. It's really cool. Okay, so when we talk about that, I just wanted to give you a hemispheric idea of what I'm talking about. And when I talk about the Asiatics, I'll talk about some of the propensities of each of the blood types. I like to give you that. For you who is a blood type, it's important for you to do your due diligence and make sure you aren't merging with hostile groups that are going to cause your children to have mental illness and also have health conditions, because you've merged with groups that are not cohesive and alchemically they're not balanced with your pH, your genetic pH. Okay, we do have a genetic pH, and when you merge with genetic groups that are non-harmonic with you, you cause issues like depression, bipolar disorder, parts of like mental illness, aggression, when you meld with these groups that are very hostile or just not cohesive, because alchemically, if it's like mixing two things that don't match or not balanced, you get curdled milk, it's just, you got to watch that. Okay, so when we talk about B's, I always talk about B's. B's are really, really smart. Okay, so so when I talk about the blood types now, then you could start to see like, oh, I understand why a lot of your surgeons are B's. A lot of the people that your government wants to procure in these operations like CIA, FBI, are number one blood type they want to procure are B's. Why? It's because they have the ability to compartmentalize a lot of information, and it doesn't interface with each other, so they can yield a lot of information, especially a lot of micro facts. They have a very what do you call it, like a very finite attention to details. So a lot of B's are, like I said, they're very knowledgeable on things. Like if I had to go to a brain surgeon, I would definitely contract a B. If I wanted to get, plans for a house to be built, or to see how the ley lines of my house to be built, I would definitely go to a B. B's are really, really smart. They're very smart people. Bees house a lot of information. Bees are very they're like how I think they're more analytical, almost similar to negative roosts. So when you get a B negative, they're super hyper logical and analytical, but very very smart. Like when you meet bees, they hold. I've known bees, and what you'll notice is that for my Caribbean bees who are melanated, you got to understand, what did I say? Where did I say the bees were generally, where's their ley line? In Asia. Did you see what kind of technologies in Asia, y'all? And when we talk about Asia, they look like they are fast forward into the future with their technology. That's because they have a finite kind of intelligence that allows for them to live in a more futuristic consciousness, like more technologically advanced. Even with India, many of you don't know because they don't talk about it. India has a lot of the patents for time travel, right? So India, like when you call into your companies and they've outsourced to India, hello there, they'll talk, and that why they've outsourced because of many of your technocrats are from India. Okay, and the United States has got this whole remember, because they've sold us out to many different groups, and India is one of the groups. That's why you're starting to see many candidates, and this melding of a lot of Indian people inside of the social um, like television and social media, because India has made a contract with the United States to bring on their technocrats because they sold part of it to get some of the technology to advance them into a lot of your data, your AI systems. Okay, a lot of your really young engineers are Indian. Okay, so that's why I say that when I talk about blood types, when you think of only Asiatics as being one thing, you have to bring in the melanated aspects of the Asiatics, which is the Indians. And Indians have bees. So when I say bees yield a lot of information and can compartmentalize it in their brain without it overwhelming them, this is what I'm talking about with the bees. Okay. And when you have bees, also physiologically, they have a sensitivity. Now, when I talk about each of the groups, I'm going to talk about the bioweapons that were created to keep these groups limited and also keep them in check. Okay. So one of the bioweapons that was created for the bees was sugar. Sugar is a bioweapon. Many of the groups, indigenous groups here, who are mixed them up with the Mongolians, they're not really indigenous here. They were the group that were brought here by the Europeans, the dark-skinned Sephardic Europeans that are A's, brought in many Mongolian and Indian lower caste system people and housed them on the land and reconfigured them and relabeled them as Indians. So I realized they really didn't. They just Indians because that's what they were for where they came from, right? So they put them on the leylands. That's why a lot of you are mixed with the Mongolians have B blood type, right? And what they did when they brought in this class is they had already had an acknowledgement that these bees were very sensitive to sugar. So that's why liquor, if you go on many of your reservations now with those who are cosplaying as the native indigenous that are really the Indians from India and Asia, they have a sensitivity to sugar. So they knew this, and that's in order to limit them and make sure they wouldn't come against the government, Willy Wonka, they created bioweapons that they would bring to these groups to keep them limited. So a lot of your reservations, you see a lot of alcoholism, which then leads into incest and a lot of things like that. I don't want to speak down because it's a bioweapon, and it's a way to control that group. So many of you bees have a sensitivity to sugar. So when you drink, you get really drunk. It's really an allergy. It's not really an allergy that has a euphoric side effect. So you have an allergy to liquor or sugar, and the side effect is euphoria. So you get really, really high quickly, and you have a hard time handling it, and the addiction becomes with that, because even though it has that allergy, your addiction comes from getting used to interfacing with sugar or processed sugar or distilled sugar, which ends up being liquor, and that becomes a problem. So that's a bioweapon that was created by our Willy Wonka system to keep you encapsulated and capped so that you wouldn't come against a system that has now placed you in these markers. So many of you who are bees have to be very careful. If you have any sugar, you say you have a sweet tooth, it's because you have an allergy to sugar. Okay, Bees, you're very sensitive to it. Be very careful with that. Okay. So bees. Um, what else? And also for bees, that's why in Asia they deal with rice wines, right? Um, like or what's the other one? My brother likes that one. Or plum wines. They tend to do things. They tend to, because they know they have a sensitivity to it. They've created certain kinds of drinks and liquors that are a little better for them, right? So like a rice wine, a plum wine, they've created another aspect. But when they come into the Americas and they were you know taken from their homelands and brought into the Americas, they knew that they had a sensitivity to sugar, and they created a bioweapon that would keep them capped. Okay, sake, right? Sake. Okay. Also, bees, you do have also higher wax and yeast buildup. Okay, so be careful with that. You tend to build a lot of earwax. You're very waxy. A lot of bees, ABs. You may have this as well. You may not have. You may have less because you're the combination of the two. But bees generally, be careful with your earwax. You might have a lot of earwax, a lot of yeast, geographical tongues. You got to be careful with having too much starch. So having a starchy diet, and also certain things that could be very acidic can bother you. That's why some of you who are mixed with Cherokee, but the Cherokee that are connected to the Mongolians, which are Asiatic, you have that sensitivity. So be careful with eating like uh, red tomatoes, tomato sauce, or ketchup. You may want to interface with purple tomatoes, which are less acidic, and then maybe doing a banana ketchup or something that's less acidic for you. Okay, so the government likes you because they can use you, bees, and your brain is powerful, and you're very smart, and you're very analytical, and you're very finite in how you can see and perceive things. You can see things beyond what other people can't see. Like I have a couple of my bees in my group, Zoom group, and big up to M can see things that like are right in front of you. That she's got such a finite view. And remember, where bees come from, they have higher technology. Okay, and they don't have as much of a sensitivity to technology as others. So where technology frequencies that may be low elf wave don't bother bees as much, unless bees are mixed with A's and maybe mixed with an O. Okay, so for those who, that's my fun facts for bees. And also bees, you are more likely to have infiltration from spiritual infestation because you have the sensitivity to sugar. Even in rituals and so on, a lot of bees can generally get mounted easier because you have that sensitivity. So when you drink, you're more likely to get possessed. A lot of possession is happens with bees. Okay, because bees, you have the sensitivity, and because you have that sensitivity, the spirits outside of the realm of what you can perceive, they perceive you as having holes in your auric field when you drink. So bees, be careful. If you drink, I would cover yourself with salt. If you drink, how do that inside of your house. You're more susceptible to possession, and that's why it's good for you to live near the ocean. You know, to be able to wash some of those demons that are mounting you. So be careful with that as well. Okay, and that does eat up your iron. So iron is going to be an issue for A's, but I'm talking about B's. When spirits are interfacing with you, they eat up your iron. Big up to our homeboy who came on here. He shared with us that a lot of people who have um, spiritual possession or in houses that are very infested with ghosts or spirits or poltergeist, they eat up they eat your iron. Okay, so because you have more susceptibility of being possessed or mounted, you as bees should be very careful interfacing with liquor with people that are very susceptible. Also, people who are carrying, entities on them, or going in spaces like bars or places where low vibrational music is playing, because those entities can infest you easier. Okay, so those are bees. So let's go into um O's. Okay, so O's, big up to the O's. And this is really, I'm going to go into the different um positive and negative, but generally for bees, generally for bees, negative and positive, that uh, that totally is bring her inside with you. Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Bring them both inside, babe. Thank you. Go inside, babe. You go inside. Weren't you listening? Take Babette inside. Go inside. Okay, she doesn't want to go. Okay. So for that goes along for negatives and positives. Okay, I'll kind of bring in how negative and positive interfaces with you, but that's generally the case. Hey, Teresa. Okay, so we're gonna go into O's. O positives and negatives. Okay, O positive and negatives. Why I know that we are not old here is because of our allergies to a lot of this field. Um, and it could be, like I said, I'm going to go into the mirror world, how I feel like the mirror world, either the negative roots was brought into this world or the positives were brought into this world. But nevertheless, um, O's generally have weird kind of allergies, but they are the strongest. Okay, so O positive and negative, this is for you. O positives, we generally are highly regenerative, meaning that we look the youngest for the longest. So I've seen O's, and they are native to the Americas. Okay, so to the Americas, you will get O's. Okay, O's generally, even when they came here, I mean, we have in Jamaica. Big up to our family in Jamaica. In Jamaica, I think she might be. I'm not sure if she's an O, yo, but I think she might be B and O combined. There's an elder there. I would have to inquire from a Jamaican family. There's an elder there that's now 135. I think she's 135. I actually think that's O quality. Okay, so she's 135. You would not be able to tell. I've seen my grandmother, like O's are long lasting. Okay, doesn't matter if they look Eurocentric or melanin. Melanin just helps it preserve your skin a lot longer. But O's are very regenerative. They look younger for longer. They do not age. It's starting to rain. They don't age at the same capacity of everyone else, right? O's are biological weaponry that Willy Wonka created, and you will laugh at me with this because I will go into it. And O's, just hold on to yourself because it's affecting me. I'm talking from the not from the pulpit, from the seats. Okay, the biological weapon that was created for O's is coffee. Don't throw fruit at me. Don't throw tomatoes. Okay. Coffee is a biological weapon that Willy Wonka created specifically for us. That's why most coffee is grown in South America places, and it was created. O's do not do well with coffee. Coffee is a biological weapon for us. It messes with our endocrine system. It blows out our lymphatic system. Um, it 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 causes a lot of issues long term with us, and it messes with our way to drain our lymphatic system. Um, it's a biological weapon that was purposefully done to keep us not living so long. Okay, long term. Okay, it breaks down our body over a period of time. What's interesting? Big up to our Mexican family, and big up to El Paso. First time I seen this, places that there's O's. It's interesting. Also, wheat is a biological weapon that was created for O's. Okay, so I'm going to share that in certain places where there's a higher amount of O's. Big up to our Mexican family, big up to our Argentina family, and big up to our Chilean family. These are the places where you have the highest amount of O's, other than the northern part. You've got Central America, who's found a way to balance out this kind of biological weapon, and also in other places where we know we have a wheat sensitivity. Wheat is also a biological weapon to O's. That's why when you start getting older, you start getting sensitivity. Now they call it celiac disease, but it breaks down our system, and it can cause cancer as you get older. Okay, it can start to weaponize your cells against you. Okay, so in El Paso, I learned this is that there was a coffee, because remember, a lot of Mexicans, most of them, look at my coffee lovers here. Wait, where are my O's who are coffee lovers? Do not. They're being gaslit right now. Listen, I'm sorry. You're being gaslit. I get it. I get it. But let me tell you some hacks. Remember when I was coming on here, I was saying, remember I was saying to you guys, oh, I have, someone said you have black on your teeth. I was like, oh, that I have charcoal. I just took charcoal. Guess where I learned that from? Big up to the Mexican family. The people who have O's, who have the sensitivity, over time, they created modalities for this issue with the biological weapon. Mexico is one, closer to the northern half, over by over in over near El Paso in the northern part, they started to add what do you call it? Charcoal to the coffee. It's a coffee. It's called, and the Japanese do the same, y'all. It's crazy. So they put it's a really delicious drink. When I first moved to Texas, and I was over in what do you call it? Oh God, in that part of Mexico. I go back and forth the border all the time. God, where is it? Anyway, um, sometimes things go to my head when I have too much. They had a drink that was like iced coffee, and it was black, and it was like iced coffee was like melded together, and it was like it looked like charcoal. And I tasted it. It was so delicious. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. The Mexicans found a way to create a modality to neutralize the effects of the acidity that affected O's, because Mexicans have the greatest amount of O's in their country, in their bloodline. So they created this wonderful drink. Many of you who ever go to like closest to the borders, you'll see it like in El Paso, probably over on the side over in Houston, you may have it. They created it. So big up to our Mexican family who found ways to neutralize the effects of coffee that they knew subconsciously or maybe consciously they knew was a biological weapon on their endocrine system. Okay, so they would add charcoal to it. Now, I'm not a fan of charcoal overall because charcoal can have effects on you if you do it too often. Juarez, over in Juarez. Thank you, my love. Juarez, over in Juarez. Big up to our family in Juarez. Juarez is like the South Bronx, but I felt so comfortable going over there because I'm from New York. So I'd be in Juarez because sometimes I go back and forth flying in and out of there. But I love going up to the border, and they would have this coffee. And what I found was very interesting. Not only did they have this coffee, when I looked it up to purchase like something that was similar to it, like a coffee that had the charcoal in it, they had gotten it from Japan. And I didn't realize that there were a lot of O's in Japan. There were what you consider to be a lot of B's, but there were a section of O's in Japan, and the Japanese had also added this kind of like neutralizer to their coffee. Isn't it fascinating? Very fascinating. And that's interesting because when you hear about the story of what they did to the Japanese after Pearl Harbor, do you guys remember? Um, during Pearl Harbor, a lot of Japanese, it was my homegirl she's got a YouTube in Mexico, and she did her DNA test. She did a DNA test. And when she did the DNA test, she was in shock. Now, many of you look in Mexico and you see a very Asiatic phenotypes, and you don't realize, again, when I told you that the Europeans and Asiatics did a migration into the Americas. That's why in Mexico, you have a lot of phenotypes. In Guatemala, in who else very Asiatic? In Ecuador, very Asiatic phenotypes. That's because they're mixed with the Mongols that came and migrated into the Americas. They're not indigenous to there. They come from Asia. And a lot of our Mexicans have a very Asiatic phenotype. But she did her blood type, y'all, and guess what she found? I thought she was going to find like Chinese or something. She thought she was full-blooded Mexican. She found out that she was 30% what? Japanese. And what's interesting is that they never talked about the migration of the Japanese after Pearl Harbor, and they were held in these concentration camps. I have M's mom, big up to M in my group, who's from Japan, who's first generation. She's American, but her mom was held in one of those concentration camps after many Japanese were held in captivity by the United States of America, the Willy Wonka system, and they were held in concentration camps during this time because they felt like they were be in danger of them, maybe, I don't know, bombing them or something. So after they were released, these motherfuckers put a middle finger to the United States and said, we ain't gonna stay here. And guess what they did? They did the natural progression into what? Mexico, which she found out. I didn't even know this, y'all. I knew they were in Brazil, but I did not know they were in Mexico. So she found out, and that now it made sense that Juarez also did this coffee with charcoal, which also the Also, what came first? Did the Japanese do it, or did the Japanese bring it into Mexico and taught them the neutralizer and they started to do it, or vice versa? So she was mixed with partial, I think it was like 25, 30% Japanese. She thought she was full-blooded Mexican. Okay. And then also remember they did the migration into Brazil. Brazil has the third largest Japanese community in Liberdade. That's where I take my children. They love Liberdade. If you go into Sao Paulo in Brazil, it has the third largest population of Japanese. And I personally know it's because of that. They were kept in those camps, and when they left, they went into the furthest Central and South America, and they found a great home in Brazil. If you ever want to go to a great place, I love, 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 love it. I love We Coffee. We Coffee is the bomb. It's over in Liberdade in Sao Paulo. So you go there. It's a really nice place. The young people like it, y'all. So if you want to ever do Brazil, I love Brazil. I'm going to have my conference there um, whenever I decide to do it. Um, and they did the migration there. So those are just little historical things that we can learn about. But biological weapon for O's is what? Coffee. And it's amazing. They will grow it. That's why I'm saying in the biological weapon for bees, which is crazy because they will start producing rums, liquors that are purposefully terrible for people. And you know what's one liquor that does not? And also, it's interesting that because the Asiatics are in Mexico, you know what's interesting that the Mexicans also do? Ah, this is so beautiful, y'all. This is why it's good for you to teach your children and travel, because these are historical references to ways to find mitigators in the midst of biological terrorism that your governments do against you. Guess what the Mexicans did? That a lot of them who are not O's or B's, guess what they did? What did they create? Because what I tell you bees are allergic to? Sugar. What I tell you. But guess what they do? Guess what kind of liquor the Mexicans create, y'all? Let's see if you put it in your in the chat. What do they create, y'all? This is the way that they created a mitigator for those who are bees, because a lot of your liquors are made with distilled sugar, right? Rums and vodkas and things like that like things that come from from starch or from sugar. Go tequila. Yeah, tequila, 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 tequila. And what is tequila made of, right? What is tequila made of? What is it? Tell me what tequila is made of. Let's see if you know. Because agave. Now, some would say agave is like sugar. They make sugar out of agave. Yes, but it does not affect the endocrine system the most. And mezcal, which many of you know, I learned when I was going back and forth to Mexico. Mezcal heals stomach lesions and gut issues. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I learned this from a Mexican. It heals the gut. So mezcal is actually used to get rid of like holes in the stomach or any sort of issue with your stomach. Mezcal, which is, you don't have to get the liquor version, but agave. And also, guess what it gets rid of, y'all? Because they knew that the biological weapons that these governments were doing were putting in worms. Guess what tequila does? Tequila gets rid of worms. Why do you know this? Because whenever you buy tequila, the old-fashioned tequila, what they used to put in the tequila, they used to put what? They used to put a worm in there, right? And how they knew the tequila was real? The worm would die. It gets rid of worms. Okay, so you see how mitigators are created, and agave roasted, when it's roasted and created, it can create mezcal, which is great for the stomach. Okay, so you see how in certain cultures, bloodlines will create mitigators to offset the biological weaponry of the Willy Wonka system. Okay, so you got charcoal added to coffee that came maybe from the Japanese, or the Japanese got it from the Mexicans, but they created it. Remember, Dr. Sebi, who did Dr. Sebi learn under when he learned a lot of his health modalities? Who did he learn from? The Mexicans. Dr. Sebi talks about he learned a lot of his modalities, and his initiation into going to health and herbalism and naturopathic medicine came from Mexico. Okay, so I love that we can kind of go full circle with a lot of these things and realize that a lot of things that even though there's biological weapons that your Willy Wonka system has created, people over time, whether it's intuitive healing, like their spirits, that's why it's important. We'll talk about how you bury your dead and why they don't want the dead buried with all of their organs and blood inside the system, because it will go into the earth, and the earth and those parts of your family's DNA will go inside of the trees, and inside of the trees will give off telepathic messages to you and how to interface with the enemy. That's why a lot of times if they want to kill off people, they will kill the trees first, because they're killing off the DNA connected to those people, like they're doing in Argentina with the so-called Deros. Okay, they will murder the trees. So any place that you see them burning off trees, they're burning off the ancestral connection. That's that whole concept of, like, when you talk about the avatars in Awa, it's much deeper than you know, y'all. Okay, so O's biological weapons is wheat. Wheats, we don't do well with wheats. What do we do well with? When you go in Brazil, what do Brazilians do, y'all? A lot of you don't realize, hemispherically, many of you who are so-called North Brown Americans are actually from South America originally. They swapped you around. What do? We have a lot of what? We eat. It's not wheat. We don't mess with wheat. We mess with what? Cassava and tapioca, the tapioca flour. Even though it's a starch, that's why you'll see a lot of Brazilians are not bulky and fat. Okay, I'm not saying you don't have chunky Brazilians, because remember, now they're starting to eat a lot of foods that are European and it's messing with their bodies. But when they ate the general South American diet, the acai, the cacao, the cassava, and the tapioca, they don't gain weight. And they don't do a lot of yeasty breads. That's why a lot of the women, even if they're bulkier, don't have cellulite. Okay, their diet is a lot different, and they aren't eating things. Whenever you have countries that are mindful of certain things or eating indigenous to their blood type and to their lineage, they aren't going to have the side effects of weight gain. Now, O's in America will get fat. You see me? I'm bulky all the time. It takes me a lot. I have to burn it off, I have to run it off, I have to swim it off, I have to dance it off. We are the weapons that they use in North America. For those of us who are O's, we bulk quickly. That's one of our side effects. We get overweight. Remember, I talked about the wax and the yeast buildup in bees. We have to be careful with food, or the types of food that are weaponized, especially the wheats, which are literally making us weight gain, because we generally aren't coming from places where we would have wheat. Wheat is a weaponized food that is purposefully, socially promoted to oats. Okay, so places in corn, also corn, which is also a weapon against those in Mexico and Central America, which causes cancer later on. It's a biological weapon. So wheat and corn, and also coffee. Okay, and look at the places that they promote those things, because the Willy Wonka system wants to destroy the endocrine system of those people in those areas. Mexicans never used to be overweight. They started to became overweight because they hibernized the corn. The corn that they used to eat was not like that. The maize, a lot of people at the tortillas, now they're getting the corn from America. Now it's causing a whole bunch of wreck. And they're also selling Coca-Cola. Hold on, y'all. What's going on? Simulation is not happy with me, y'all. Hold on. The simulation isn't happy. It's getting windy. Okay. So they do things like that. It's bioterrorism. Okay. So for my Mexican family, I would just say I wouldn't mess with the maize. And if you eat the maize, get the old seeds for the corn. Corn could be weaponized. And the corn that they know that was bringing life to parts of Central America is now bringing death. And they bring Coca-Cola, which, big up to Selma. She talked about the mass addiction of Coca-Cola that's destroying the health of a lot of Mexicans who are actually mixed with Asiatics. And remember, I told you, what are the Asiatics sensitive to? Sugar. So they've got a biological weapon to the Asiatics that are over there in Mexico, and they have a biological weaponry towards the O's, and then the indigenous from there. So they've created it to destroy them. Okay, Coca-Cola is death to Mexicans who are mixed with a lot of the Mongolian, that Asiatic. Okay. All right. So what else? O's generally, what is their behavioral patterns? They're very assertive and aggressive. One of the things that was denoted when the Europeans, the dark-skinned Europeans came into the Americas, they met the Tainos, which literally warred them, like literally was going to take them out. They went through, people don't talk about the 250 year, I think it was 250 years of war against the indigenous in the Americas when the Europeans came. That's why they started to bring in other groups to usurp the American indigenous, which are the Taino, the Carib, the Arawak. We were here, okay? And how they tried to destroy us because we were an aggressive group, okay? O's are aggressive. O's are very aggressive and they are domineering and they're leaders, okay? If you look at all your presidents, if you notice, look at all your leaders. The majority of them were what? O's. All of your leaders were O's. I think only Barack Obama, and he's some sort of hybridized being that was created according to Rod Hayes. He was hybridized in Argentina along with the hybridization of Hitler, and Hitler was a woman. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation, right? The pink swastika group over there in Argentina. But let's keep going, okay? So O's, why they're so aggressive with so many biological weapons and ways that they try to destroy that group. Many of the things that are very in your grocery store for those of us who are O's, one of the things is safflower. Safflower causes mass inflammation. They create certain biological weapons because after O's figure out that they're coming after them, we will stop doing things. Then they create another biological weapon. So also O's, be careful with safflower oil. A lot of the things they promote out into our eating algorithm is purposefully targeting O's. O's are the most domineering in the Americas. And in the Americas, we are the most aggressive and warlike. So in order to attack O's, they will attack our endocrine system and they will attack us with biological nutrition. Okay, safflower oil, flour, which is wheat, and also coffee. Okay, all the vegetable oils. Canola is a genetically homogenized oil. I mean, but most of the biological weapons in the northern Americas is targeting O positive. So I would say O positives, especially with soy and everything like that. I would make a lot of your things if you can. I would most likely create your own food stores. Like I grow a lot of my own food. I go to co-ops for other things. I try to stay away from certain foods because we are the number one target. Okay, so O's are very assertive and aggressive. We're warlike. Okay, who do you know is O? Look at the Comanche and the Apache. The Apache and Comanche were the indigenous groups that were in Arizona and Texas before, when it used to be Mexico. They were warlike. They were killers. Like that's why when you go into Mexico, the whole thing with the cartel. Why are people scared of them? Because they're O's. Most of them are O's. They're aggressive and they're warlike. These are the groups that migrated out of the so-called Americas before it was colonized and gentrified into another name, taken over by the colony of America with Texas and Arizona and California. These were the warring groups, like the Apache and the Comanche. Look, and you should, if your children don't know their history, go and read the books. Go to the old archives. You will see all this amazing information regarding these groups. I could close my eyes and tell you that the Comanche and the Apache are most likely O's, okay? By the aggression. And when you go into Mexico, they're about that life. They're aggressive. You know what I mean? Now, maybe they're socially and conditioned and engineered to do other things that may not be positive, but if it can be turned that way, it can be turned back. So that's why you're seeing that over in those parts of the world. What else? Also, O's have a really uncanny way of trees. Look at my trees. Trees will interact with O's because they're indigenous to the Americas. That's why they brought a lot of trees that weren't indigenous to the Americas and killed off our old trees. A lot of the trees that are indigenous to North America, Central and South, and the Caribbean that are indigenous there have a telepathic connection to almost like the avatars to O's. Okay, A's have it too, but they're indigenous. Most of the groups do. B's don't necessarily have that unless they're mixed with A's. But O's in the Americas have a really amazing relationship with the trees. Whereas I would say A's have more of a floral connection. A's generally have a connection to the plants that are more floral based, flowers, certain herbs. B's have a connection to the mushrooms. Um, and there's a whole book on this that I read many years ago in the Rhythm Library, and this is like a pass through book. The book talked about people who have connection to certain plants and kingdoms, but bees have a connection to mushrooms. That's why in bees you notice they deal with a lot of mushrooms. A's have a connection to florals and certain herbs, and O's have connection to the indigenous trees. Okay. All right, A's. Are you ready, A's? Then we're going to go into the ley lines. Is this okay, y'all? Or is this conversation okay? Or do you want me to talk about anything else? I'll go with your lead. I'm going to go into A's and then we'll go into ABs. I hope it's not boring you. If it's really boring, let me know. Because I'll hyper focus on certain things that I think you want to know. And again, do not take anything. These are things I've learned over the years. Um, I've studied this. I was, my previous life, I studied genetics, right? That's why I have this weird, uncanny things that I know that didn't make sense when I was young because I was really young when I started college. But these are things I just happened to know that didn't make sense back then, but they make sense now. Okay. All right. So I can keep, okay. So I'll keep going. So let's go into the A's. I love you, A's. Let me just say this. I'm an O. I love you, A's. You are the sweetest. Even when you're villains, you can't really be full villains. A's are the sweetest, y'all. They are I don't know. I feel like the land loves you most. Okay. You aren't warlike. You actually are the stewards of this plane of existence. You're very abused. They take advantage of you the most. I feel like the most assassinations, things that are done, and the abuses are done to A's because they're really great. Animals love them. If you ever want to know who's an A, look how the animals treat them. And all animals will gravitate towards A. They have this uncanny connection to animals, specifically birds, cats, dog, all animals. It's something that you emit that is in a frequency, and I can't tell you why. I just know it. I know it for a fact. I've gotten so good to guess a blood type. All I have to do is go out, and if I see that the birds come close to someone, or I see that literally they'll go outside and like animals don't run, I already know I'm dealing with the A. Okay, so animals love you. Okay, um, what is the issue that you guys have? A's, you have enzyme issues. You have digestional issues, digestive issues. You got issues with your tummy, okay? Which ends up being a lot of issues with your skin. So, or your ability to absorb certain minerals, and I think that because of hibernization of a lot of your plants and animals and things, you have a hard time to digest um, certain and to process it and to extract from it. So many of the A's have issues with skin, a lot of breakouts with skin, psoriasis, or even bees too. Bees have a lot of issues sometimes with skin, but it's more so with A's. A's also have digestive issues like enzyme issues, absorption issues. So a lot of times it's hard for you to absorb your minerals because you're not living alchemically balanced. A's don't do well living in apartment buildings or around too much technology. Technology will make this amplify that quality of being not able to absorb. So um, A's, I would just be careful with uh, messing with anything that takes away your absorption. So though coffee probably doesn't bother you as much, coffee will block any form of caffeine will block your absorption of iron and your minerals. So I would just be mindful of taking things that mess with your absorption. Okay. Um, is I just would be mindful of um, doing anything harsh on your body that will amplify that effect. You guys have a hard time absorbing things, which makes you more issuous for having children. Sometimes that may have a problem. Um, with sometimes with um, neurological issues, or because it happens in your pregnancies. So, and also when O's carry A babies, they get really sick. I don't know why. So though O's and A's can actually blend together, many of you are probably components, you're probably a byproduct of A's and O's, because O's are so aggressive and assertive, A's who are sweet are attractive to that domineering quality, both men and female. So O's and A's generally tend to mate with each other, but O women generally who carry A babies get sick. Don't know why. And I've denoted this over the years. So this is not a, this is why I say I'm very unique in that I know these things because I'm always involved in inquiring about blood types and knowing how things interface alchemically with people of different blood types. But for some reason, when O's get pregnant with A's, they get very, very sick. So I would suggest to any mom who's mating with a male, or if a mom, you knew that your mom was an A and you're messing with an A male, I would just say, previous to you having a baby, I would definitely do a papaya extract to help your tummy issues. Before you go into that and try to balance out your stomach chemistry. Okay. I think during the later trimester it gets a little better, but I know first and second trimester is really tough on a lot of O's that carry A's. I'm not sure that A's have a problem with O's. I haven't heard that. So A mamas, let me know if you've ever had a problem carrying an O. I have. O's will make you look younger too. So the wonderful thing about an A messing with an O will make you better. So an A mommy, if you have any issues, neurological, stomach issues, when you mate with an O will fix a lot of that with your children. You'll actually fix a lot of your issues, enzyme wise, with an O. Okay. And also they'll prolong, because you're taking in the DNA of an O, they'll prolong your lifespan. O's is not the same for you. Okay, so A's and B's benefit from mating with O's. O's don't benefit from mating with a B or A, unless you're trying to fix something in your family dynamics. Okay, so if you're trying to fix issues, and maybe O's are generally have very little issues, but if O wants to fix certain things, they could probably mate with the others, but you're a hub, so they're gonna pull from you. Okay, so it's important for you guys to know who you're messing with. Okay, so just just be mindful of that, y'all. And also A's benefit from, I saw A's benefit also. Oh, you said colloidal gold. You guys benefit from copper. A's. A's do well with copper, like copper bracelets, which basically becomes like, when it becomes green, that's like zinc being absorbed, like zinc. It's like when zinc is going through that alchemical breakdown. Um, A's do really well with copper. O's, we have a lot of copper in our blood. That's why we look younger, and that's why our hair doesn't gray as easily as everybody else. O's will have black hair until their 80s and start salt and peppering then. Okay. The O's. I'm not saying the O's can be a breakdown of copper with aging, but generally O's have a lot of copper in their system. They used to say it was O negative. No, it's O's in general. O's in general have a lot of copper in their blood. I found that out the wrong way. Okay. But A's do well with copper. I've seen A's do really benefit from copper. And that also is why A's probably need copper, is because it helps you to absorb. Maybe your ancestors lived places where there was a lot of copper in the soil. So I'm actually thinking A's, look at places like places that have a lot of copper in the ground, because I think that could be why you're not absorbing as well. Copper helps to absorb like iron and other things. So that could be why many A's don't absorb well, because maybe they're not living in the ley lines of their ancestors where they absorbed a lot of copper. And remember, A's generally are from Europe. Okay. So I don't know if Scotland, can anyone tell me? I would love to do. I'm always curious. I wonder if A's, I wonder if you guys came from like places where there was a lot of ore, copper ore. Can you guys look that up? I know maybe it's not important for you. I'm always I'm always curious. Most curious to see where there's most copper in the ground. That's where you guys are from. Okay. Hold on. Um, you can't eat all meat. Um, you can't eat meat, and you don't get iron from meat. A's. For some reason, or maybe it's the type of meat. You don't absorb meat from all. You don't absorb iron from meat the same as everybody else. I don't know why. It could be like again, it could be the kind of meat that you need to eat. Maybe you need to be more lamb, mutton, or maybe a kind of bird. But you absorb, excuse me, you absorb iron a little differently. And again, I think copper needs to be in your diet as well. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. This is just my opinion. I'm not giving you this from anything, but I'm just saying I think there's something to that. So I don't know why. I think you may eat a certain kind of, and this is where you guys can do the research for me. If you're from Europe, tell me where there's a lot of copper in the places you live in Europe. Is it Scotland, Ireland? Where is it? Tell me where it is, and then we can find out where some of you came from. Okay. Um, okay, so that's A. Okay, so we talked about enzyme issues, absorption issues, digestion, certain meats, biological meats are a biological weapon for you, certain meats. Okay. Um, and I also feel like they don't really target you, but by default, I think where you guys are living, I think you're just targeted because you're not living in your natural habitats. A's are supposed to be in Europe. So if you're not living, and even if you're dark skin, A's are generally. Oh, it's raining. I start I start getting this weird thing. This is how you know I'm indigenous stuff. For the indigenous people, you notice I got a little nasally before it rains. I get the effect of rain before it rains. Every time. Like I get sniffly and I start coughing. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Oh, it's boring. I don't see Chuck. Chuck went in. All right. Wait, let's see. Tennessee says Europe's main copper deposits are in Poland, Spain, Sweden, Portugal, Serbia, and Finland. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Tennessee. Oh my God. Poland is, y'all, see, this is why we work together. Wherever you come from matters. So for those who are A's, doesn't matter if you're dark or light, because remember, A's, there were Europeans that came from Europe that were darker skinned. So it doesn't matter. Look what Tennessee just found, y'all. Tennessee found, and if you look, many of you come from those regions or are mixed with people from those regions. This is awesome. Oh, it's raining and pouring. The bee is not happy. Oh, my bee is upset. Okay. This is great information. Thank you, Tennessee. That was fantastic. K7, that's fantastic information. Woohoo! Okay. I love when we work together. All right. So A's, okay. They are okay. So A's are a little more passive and sweet. When I say sweet, passive, and then more conformist. Like A's are not pasto. Even when you meet an A and they get broke up, they're so kind. A's aren't meant to be aggressive. Where they come from, they didn't have to be. And I actually think over generations, they were forced into ways of life. That's why they get abused the most. Um, and A's, you got to be careful conforming, because when you go to countries like, I noticed like in Brazil, I got a chance to do a little my own little sample of some of the people in Brazil. Like I said, most of the people in Brazil, the mixtures in Brazil are European with brown. So you will see someone who looks like me, and they can have a sister with blue eyes and blonde hair. They can have a mother with blonde hair because they're so mixed. That's why you see a lot of A's in Brazil. I had a chance to do a general census of my own in Brazil from north to south, and a lot of them are A's. Okay. Um, and within those groups of A's, they're a little more passive. That's why slavery, in the way that we know it here in the Northern Hemisphere, wasn't stopped until the 80s, because they're not fighters. That's why I almost feel like those A's were placed in South America because they knew they wouldn't fight and get bruck up like over here with them O's over in North America. Because we get bruck up. Like, we'll fight. Like, even when I say it, I get bruck up in my head. O's will fight. O's are aggressive. You come against the O and a whole family of O's, they will fight you until they'll die. Okay? They're just aggressive. A's didn't come from warring places. And if you look in Europe, And hold on now. Okay. When you look in Europe, in places like Poland, a lot of these places were not aggressive places. Okay. They didn't fight like that. They didn't have to. So A's have to be careful conforming too much. You got to be careful people stepping on you and you just being like, okay, I don't want to fight. Just hold your own. You don't have to be aggressive like an O. You don't have to be too logical like a B. Just hold your own, because I don't like that they take advantage, and I don't like that societies have relegated you to being pushovers. It's not nice because the animals love you, and there's a reason why you're so loved and adored by nature. Okay, so don't let people push you over. A's, stand up for yourself, even if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be belligerent, but stand up for yourself. A's, you deserve to be happy. Okay, you deserve to be respected. So A's, that's one of your issues. You're more passive and you're a little more conformist. Um, One thing you do though, A's, you can be a little, you can lack self restraint. So sometimes you got to be careful being impulsive, or or like. So I tell you to stand up for yourself, but you got to have a little more self restraint. So when it comes to like sexual, now wait, I gotta say this for the little ones, because A's, I'm gonna talk about you a little bit, get a little saucy. So can we put the abuelitas and the mommies and the grandmothers and big daddies and uncles and big sis, put the little ones earbuds on, because I'm about to be inappropriate for the little people. So I give you time to put them away. Okay, so put the little ones away, because I'm about to say something about you A's that's a little saucy. Okay, and A's is not negative, because I actually think you're the sexiest. I think a lot of people like to have sex with A's. That's why I think O's like you guys, because you're sexy. If you look at places like Brazil that has a lot of A's, in Europe they have a lot of sex and a lot of unorthodox sex. A's are more attractive. A's are the most attractive. Okay, so A's generally tend to be more attractive. And mind you, people, mind you, everyone, when I'm talking about the different blood types, many of you are mixed with the different ones. So I can't, because some of you are so generationally mixed, muddy, mucked up. You're mixed with a lot of these things. So, unless you come from, I'm about 5, 6 generations of O positive. So I can be more finite with myself because I haven't mixed with other groups like that. I'm I'm all O. And any A was in me was washed away. Okay. But A's, you are really attractive. You guys like to have sex, and you like to have unorthodox sex, because you don't again, like, you're very nature based. Probably a lot of druids. That's why you come from places where you a lot of druid stuff. It's probably why you are probably very elemental. I wouldn't be shocked that a lot of you are not having interface with a lot of the elven realms, the elves, the gnomes, the fairies, because you have a lot of that elvenness in you, like a lot of druid, magical, Norse kind of like background. So you have a very strong connection to nature, and because of that, you're very sexual and uninhibited. Okay, so a lot of A's don't have sexual hangups like some of the other groups. B's can be have sexual hangups. I've seen more B's with sexual hangups. O's, it's not. They could be either, but the A's are very sexually. What I say? Um, you don't have, you're a little impulsive sexually. Okay, so be careful with A's. I Like I said, Brazil has a lot of A's, and I use Brazil because it's a good sample. Look at how the Brazilians have sex. I hate to use it. I love Brazil. I'm just saying they don't really have a lot of restraint. They're more nature based. So just be careful, A's. You like to, I don't think it's negative. I think in this kind of messy world with a lot of other blood types, I don't know that you should really. Um, you like O's. We could rock you. We will rock you. Yeah, O's. We're probably a cup of tea because we're more aggressive. Probably like that. I would just, if unless you have a reason to get with the O, stay with the A. It's a little aggressive in this realm right now. You may want to O to bring a little more assertiveness to your children. But A's, that's one of your qualities. You're very saucy sexually. It's you're very good looking. All the A's I know are really good looking people, just very good looking people. They're the best looking people of all the blood types. Not to say that us other blood types. Remember, I'm not biased, y'all, because I'm a O. I'm telling you that A's are better looking. When I see A's are good looking. Okay, whether they're the European light skin or the European dark skin, they're good looking people. That's why a lot of people like to get with them. Okay, so A's, that's what you got going on. Just watch your sex. Stop. Don't stop. Drop it. Don't drop it like it's hot. Okay, and be a little more discriminatory towards sex. I know that it's in you to be more non-conformist, like you conform like with social systems, but you don't conform sexually. You might want to swap that. You're good looking people. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay. Um, biggest of all my A's in the house. What else? Oh, your floral links. I talked about the A's being connected to florals, like flowers. That's why a lot of places like France, places Europeans that come from places that have a lot of A in Europe, you guys are very floral. You're connected to the flowers. That's why when I saw a realm where I came from, there were no trees, there were just flowers. A's are more floral connected, more elemental with flowers and herbs. Like I said, B's are more connected to the mushroom kingdom. A's are connected to the florals and the herbs. O's are more connected to the trees. If you mix with all those, you probably have a combination platter. um, what else? Okay, so I think that's it. I think that's it as far as and ABs. ABs, I will say this: ABs, just take what I said about A's and B's and kind of combine it. Some of you, if your mom is an A, you're going to have more of that disposition. If your mom is a B, you're going to have more of that disposition. But generally, ABs, why I love ABs as far as like in our world is because they're like neutralizers. They're very balanced. They're like the mediators of our realm. If you ever meet an AB, they're just not broke up like that. They have the sweetness of an A, and they have the logic and the like the kind of smartness of a B. So they're really really smart, and they're very good looking. They got the good looking with the logic. So they're like the combination platter. No, I don't do mushrooms. I don't mess, especially in I do zero drugs. Let me say this to anybody new. I am zero drugs. I do zero drugs, and I don't drink except on occasion. But I don't do drugs. I'm, over the years, people will say, oh my God, FleurBrun, are you hot? No, I am a mother. That isn't something I do. I don't play with that kind of thing. It is an enemy to do so. Okay, so I'm drug free. Um, but what was I gonna say? ABs. My God, that storm came was probably a bioweapon. Like the Hunger Games. They probably put some biological gas on me. Shut up, FleurBrun. Um, ABs are neutralizers. They're mediators. They're very balanced. Okay, so I love ABs for having as mediators. They're like counselors too. If you want to be a counselor, if you want to be a mediator, if you want someone in the family that'll stop people getting broke up and belligerent, you bring in an AB. I've met every AB I met, and I don't like everybody, y'all. It's not. I'm not that kind of person. I don't. I'm a normal person. I have my preferences and not preferences, but whenever I met ABs will neutralize situations. They're great negotiators. I love ABs for that. If there's a combination that you want to fix, like I said, if you're an O, you don't really have to. You messing with other people is going to lower your immune system. Okay, so you're a hub. The others are like subsidiaries. So if but an A, if you want to get more assertiveness in your family and your children, you want to mess with an O. O has more longevity, and they live longer and they stay younger. B's, if you want a little more softness to you and stop being so logical and so critical and so analytical, get with an A. A has more of that softness, more connection to nature. It'll balance you out. That's why ABs are the perfect combination. The perfect combination. Now it's you and me. The perfect combination. Na, 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 na. I love ABs. ABs are awesome. I've always gotten along with AB, even if an AB is like they got something else going on. I have an issue with ABs. Okay, I appreciate them. We need more of them. And when they try to, if I'm not mistaken, the only president that was an AB was Barack Obama. Am I correct, y'all? Do you remember? I think Barack Obama was the only one that wasn't an O. Am I correct? I think Barack Obama was not an O. Okay, he was the only one who wasn't an O. Okay, so because of that, um, I think that's why they chose him to kind of neutralize people from something. You know, they kind of launched him as a brown man, but he's he isn't what you would call melanated. It would have to be his mother. So he's more of someone to neutralize people, you know, to kind of put them to sleep a little bit. So he was kind of launched. He was a soft launch. If he was an AB, I think he was an AB. So you know, it would kind of make sense because he kind of soft. He softened brown people from being so aggressive and feeling like they were being beat up. You know, but he really wasn't something to negotiate for brown people. He really did more for LGBT than he ever did for brown people. Okay, that was the reason why he was put out there. Okay, so I'll talk about that. Now, when we talk about the blood types and the ley lines, we're going through some sort of shift. Have you always heard me talk about the pole shift and how it interrelates with us going towards reset and the pole shift? You know, this is a time where we're converging of the different timelines and all of the different timelines are merging as one. Now, I've talked about as it relates, maybe I should go into the mirror people and then I'll go into the ley lines. Okay. Um, yeah, he did. He wasn't for brown people. He wasn't a brown person. You know, he just in complexion only. Remember, a lot of people harmonize to lull people to sleep. You know, they'll create a lot of these candidates aren't even human or they're hybrids of some sort. You know, clones, multi generational clones that they put out to serve an agenda. He is one of many. Bush was in a clone. I'm sure all of them clones, but definitely Barack was a clone of, you know, brought out here to lull people to sleep, make brown people feel like their voice is heard, and he did absolutely nothing for brown people. He did everything for LGBT, including his husband Michael. Okay, that's why his husband Michael met up with that basketball player's son daughter Zoe. That's the first thing because that's their people. Okay, you know. Anyway, it is what it is. I don't think you should put any hope in these candidates because they're all bioborgs or some sort of clones. Okay, they aren't here. They're just here to lull you to sleep. There isn't any Willy Wonka governmental system that is ever working in your behalf. If you think that, you are very mentally ill or just suffering from Stockholm syndrome. My opinion. Okay, um, eye color. There's no colors of eyes. There's just colors of brown or none. Eye color will present a certain way visually, but there's only colors of brown. Generally, your eye colors is only brown and hues of lighter brown or none. If you get a, and this is, you can go and look at this if you've ever gone to school um, for um, for the eyes. If you get a hue of blue or green or hazel, it's just a reflection of your it's because your eyes are more see-through and it's a reflection of your veins behind your eyes, giving you the illusion of blue and green or hazel. Okay. And I'll liken this to the ocean, right? You go to the ocean, is the ocean when you pick up the ocean water and you put it in your hand, is it blue? No. When you pick it up, what is it? Clear, right? But sometimes why does ocean water look blue? Because it's a reflection of what? The sky down on the water gives it the illusion of being blue. So there isn't any such thing as blue eyes, just hues of brown or none. So non-melanated eyes to super lens. So the lens in itself creates the color and there's only brown. So there's brown and then lesser forms of brown. And the least amount of brown you get when it becomes more clear, you get the reflection of the veins behind the eye. Some people have more green veins, more blue, and gives the illusion of color of blue. Okay, you can look this up, you know. So, I always give you another example because, my mom was a teacher. So I always like to give you examples because it has nothing to do with judgment. You just go to an ocean, pick up the water. When you pour the water down, it's clear. When you look at the water, look at the sky. What color is the water? Whatever color is the sky. Okay. Depending on the color of the sky or the content of minerals or dirt in the water, right? It can look brown. It doesn't really change as much because it's too much brown, right? So when you have a very dark ocean water and it's very dark, it doesn't matter how blue it is, the water still looks dark, right? But when the water is cleaner and it gets more content of salt and more filtered out and it's more clear, what colors does the water change to? It changes to hues of blue and green, right? When you go into the Caribbean, sorry, y'all. When you go into the Caribbean, right? And the Caribbean has a higher concentration of salt, right? Then you're going to see it clearer, right? And then it'll look like the hues of the sky, right? So, and when it has more salt, it makes you more buoyant. Okay. So that's it. So that's all. So, it's just hues. People who come from places closer to the equator are going to have darker eyes because it's a sunglass. It's sunglasses. The eyes just denote colors of eyes just denote where you came from. If your eyes have less color on it, it's more you came from inside of the earth. You didn't come from the outside. If you were coming from the outside, you would have darker eyes to deal with the effects of the sun simulator, whatever it's called. Okay, the solar. So you have a darker lens if you generally come from closer to the equator or places where you have more sun outlets. So most 99% of all surface beings have darker eyes because you're living on the surface of the planet. Those who come from inside of the earth generally have light eyes. If you ever gone in a cave, have you guys ever gone in a cave and never saw the fish? What color are the fish eyes? You ever see the eyes of the fish and when you go inside of the cave? It's light because they're not exposed to all that sun, right? So they don't need a dark lens on their eyes. But if you go to see the fish on the outside of the cave, the fish have more melanin in their eyes, right? But when you go on the inside of the cave, it's darker. They don't need all that, or they tend to be very light. That's all. Okay, so as we get closer to in the name of discrimination, they left out all the green-eyed children as if they don't exist, just like they do with eye emojis. Green eyes? They don't have green eyes? They should have green eyes. This children with green. Like I said, the veins behind, like some of you have, some of you are big makeup people, right? I learned this from my niece, right? What'd you say? I have a crush on Rod Hayes. Who said that? That's why would you say that? That's untrue. That's interesting. Anyway, oh, someone took your comment away. Oh, it was retracted. Oh shit. No. Okay. I have a crush on someone else. Telepathically get that one. What was I gonna say? I'm distracted. You distracted me. Okay, so what was it? Oh, I was saying that my niece taught me this. And that there are people who have, and I've seen this, like people have more green veins and more blue, right? Some people have green veins and it makes you have to wear a certain palette of makeup, right? And there's people who have bluish veins and have to wear a certain palette of makeup. So those who have more green veins, if they have non-melanated eyes, it's going to show up as green. And I don't know where the green vein people come from. I don't know if the green, that's another, that's something I would probably research as well. Who has more green veins than blue veins? Where they come from? I don't know. I never thought to ask that question. But anyway, yeah, so green, I've seen green. I haven't seen it lately. When's the last time I seen someone with green hues? It's been a while, right? Green. Oh, well, makeup and nail polish, you already know. Nail polish is you shouldn't be wearing any nail polish, right? Nail polish blocks your electrical chi. Okay, so that's why they promote for women to wear makeup and nail polish because it blocks your chi, like shaving your hair off your body. it messes with your electrical field, your frequencies. So that's why they promote for women to get all these crazy nails and look like vampires and look crazy. Okay, they go in stranger danger. They get all these formaldehyde, crazy chemicalized things, and put them on their body, and especially their nails have an electrical charge. And then they wonder why their health is failing. You know, getting your nails done, and you know they have halal and kosher nail polish, right? The halal ones are really nice. They're very porish, so if you use it, you should be using. If you use nail polish, I don't know why you guys don't use halal nail polish. They have halal nail polish. They sell it all over. You know, there are other cultures who really make sure they protect their certain women from the all these endocrine attackers. So you don't have to put chemicals on your body. If you like to put things on your body, just make sure you make it or it's natural. But it isn't good to put makeup on or you know, perfume on your neck, around your thyroid. You know, these things are not healthy. Anyway, okay, so what was I getting into? Okay, so um what's important about blood types and how it's relates with what's going on with the pole shift. You know, we talked about this over the years, and you know, even though I don't really like him that much, his information is very relative, and it goes into also um, the ley lines and how the Asiatics created ley line animals to basically give you clues to where you should be hemispherically. Okay, so why a lot of people have issues, like, you know, if you are, let's say, um, and I didn't leave out Africa because Africa has a combination platter. Africa is one of the biggest continents. I know someone said it in my telepathically in my head. What about Africa? Africa is a combination of many different blood types. Now, one would say it's O's. I actually think that those who are more indigenous to those regions would have O's, but I've seen a lot of A's and also some B's in Africa. So my African diaspora, you can give in some. I've seen combinations. So it's such a big continent. It has 52 countries, 52 plus countries. There's a lot of different blood types and a lot of different tribes. I've seen a combination of a few. And remember, with the mass migration, when this used to be Pangea, it's hard to say. There's a big concentration of O, but not the most, and then there's A's and B's. So it depends. It's very diverse. So that's why you see I can't really talk about, because when you go into Africa, you see all the other combinations of people. So you see, like in Namibia, you see a lot of Asiatic features on a lot of the Africans there. And I don't know their blood types. I would think they might be a B O combination. I would have to see some of their practices, their behaviors, some of their social systems to really be able to predict what they are. But oh, you're from Nairobi. Wait, yes. O positive. Listen, okay. So African diaspora, put your blood type in there. Thank you for that. They would be more indigenous to the terrain of Kenya. Kenya is beautiful, probably long-standing, probably has some of the older blood types that are there. So let me know if you're from Africa. Please put your blood type in there so we can do our own little consensus. Okay, so that'd be great. Thank you for that. There's a guy called GG33. He goes into positive Uganda. We're getting it, y'all. I get so excited. I'm really geeky. I love when we get this. Nairobi, we're getting O positives. Okay, so you're giving us our own little sample. So we're getting O's. So O's from Africa fit into this. You are definitely this. And also with O's from Africa, that makes me think that the rice that they send, remember all the rice they used to send into Africa? I actually think that might have been your bioweapon that they were sending from these colonizing beings. They were probably sending rice into that because rice is a starch, and also probably I wonder how it interfaces, because that was one of the things they were pushing and sending into Africa is the rice. So I think with our other sea star, I forgot her name was what does she call herself? She's got this channel. She's called something Hostile Sister. No. Oh, where's maybe Susu knows. If Susu comes in, I love her channel. I should know her name. She's called Righteous Sister. She talks about the radiation rice and how they send radical. I love you. I love you. I love you. Radical sister. I love her. She probably thinks I'm crazy as heck. Tell her I love her. I know it. Sometimes I adore the channels, but they think I'm crazy because I talk about ETs. But Radical Sister, she talked about the radiation. I bought her book. She's got a really great book. She talked about the radiation rice that's being sent from Fukushima that was sent into Africa. So I would, my African diaspora, please make sure you denote that a lot of the rice that you're getting is being imported and it has a radionic frequency, just like Himalayan pink salt. You know, big up to An, who's in Vietnam. We have found out years ago. Some of you are new to me, so I don't know how much you've heard of the rants I've had previously. But the reason why they promote certain things is because they want to make you ingest poisons. So just like with the pink Himalayan salt that was pushed, it was radioactive, just like the rice is. So they were pushing it so people would buy it and get sick. Okay, so wait, the cassava and yams aren't safe there either? Gosh darn it. Okay. Yeah, I would grow. In places like, any place that you can grow your own food, grow it. I just, anything that comes from other places is crazy. Okay, so I'm going to talk GG33. I don't care from him either, but his information is pretty relative as I was going into the Chinese astrology, and I use it every year since Lynn Burgess, who was part of our group, who passed away last year. She was wonderful, and she used to do the feng shui for our group every year. He has made it a little more forward and fluid for the times we're in. He hates women. He is hostile. He's a troll of some sort, but his information is very relative. Okay, so I'm going to bring in blood types as it relates. Hey, AJ. Thank you, Tennessee. Okay, Radical Sister. I love Radical Sister. Now, for Lunars, if you go to Radical Sister, she is very truthful, and I wouldn't say like, listen. She understands that the colonizing factions have created biological weapons to really attack certain phenotype people. So go over there with just an open mind. Don't get gaslit. Don't go over there and get gaslit, because she may gaslight you in certain things she talks about, but what she says is very true. Okay, her perception is very interesting, and also think of her age, think of the time frame, and think of the background she comes from when you go over there. Okay, so why it's important when I talk about we're going towards pole shifts. And I was talking about negative. I always sidetrack, y'all. Please don't let me sidetrack. Sidetrack. I was talking about negative ruse. Okay, so before I go into the ley lines, before I go into GG33, I know I'm going all over the place. Are you guys with me? I'm so sorry. I have so much in my head and I want to share so much with you. Are you guys with me? Do you want me to go into the negative positive first? Because I don't want to miss that, because then I'll go into the ley lines. Let me know, because it's your day. I'm with you for a little while. You have a little time with me today. It's still early. I drank my coffee already. I'm going to take another sip. Where's my tissue? Okay. I promise I do this video with you. So, okay. Let's get into the positive, negative risk. So, first I have to say to our negative risk women, childbearing, and also not childbearing, I have a warning for you. I have heard so much over the years, and I have a lot of sea stars. And I didn't realize how many sea stars in the Caribbean that are actually negative roots. It's very important that you know this, because I have to share this with you. Negative roots women, stop sleeping and having sex with positive roots. I know it. Don't throw tomatoes at me. Don't get upset with me. Please. I just listen to me. And I know this for a fact. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I am a trans frog on occasion. Okay. Stop sleeping and engaging with positive roots. I am a positive roost, and I'm telling you, they are making you sick. They're going to give you children that are alchemically off. Now, the children who survived, many of you will say, oh, I had a mom who was negative roost, and I'm okay. it's not a good match, and it causes problems mentally, alchemically, and also hemispherically. A lot of you don't realize that the reason why many of you get triggered, your immune system gets triggered, and you start having cytostorms when you start sleeping with a positive roost, is because he's making you sick. You aren't supposed to mate with a positive roost. I'm talking to the women, okay? Women. So, sea stars, I know that he's sexy. I like to sleep with some of these sexy positive roosts, but they're from my background. You have to mate with your own. He will make you very sick, and you will start having UTIs. You'll start having autoimmune responses, weird kind of things like hit your system. You want to be very mindful. I know a lot of sea stars that are negative roosts. Their immune systems aren't capable of overcoming constant infiltration from a roost that is not meant for you to sleep with them. Your doctors are not going to tell you. I don't listen. I told you they stopped giving you blood types a couple years ago, and they don't even require for you to get married nowadays. So they just want you sleeping with anything. They want you sleeping with clones, Cabbage Patch, my $29.99 sexual deviant toys online. They want you to put these silicone stuff inside of you so you can have all kinds of residue. They want you to electrocute and put EMF waves inside of you. Sea stars, come on now. Let's get it together. Okay? They will cause issues. Stop sleeping with positive roots. Their mother freakers are handsome and cute. Now, this is why I'm so upset. I don't know what happened. For negative roost males, they didn't give you a lot of options. This is my theory. I don't know what is true. I don't know what is true. My phone is acting weird, y'all. Okay, I don't know it's true or fact. This is just my theory. Oh my God. I'm getting invited to go dancing tonight. Should I go? I should go dancing, right? I think I might go dancing tonight, yeah. I love when I get invited to. I don't get invited to go dancing often. I'm gonna answer that in a minute. Okay. There's not many choices for you. I actually have a theory that you guys are. You think I should go dancing or I think I might. It might be fun. I'm not gonna stay on here too long because I think I gotta go at 6. I gotta be there at 6. Okay. You guys want me to go dancing? All right, go dancing. I have dinner ready already. So I actually think that the negative roosts were extracted from the mirror world into our realm. And why do I think that? Remember when I said, many of you know my mom transitioned last year, right? Broke my heart. I just was in the black hole of the depths of the abyss. And that's where I went into the other realm with Brother Panic, the Taurus realm where he was in a labyrinth. I saw all the people that are down with Brother Panic. He's down with this woman was sitting in a tub and she was like pouring into different realms and dimensions. It was off the chain because when my mother passed, like my etheric cord was still attached and we were so close that I literally could follow her into the other realms. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But when I went into another realm, what was it, 2 weeks ago? I went into a mirror realm where my mother here in this realm was very sick. The mother that I had in the mirror realm was really healthy. And I even saw my husband, where in this realm he doesn't exist, in that realm he does. And they were really the opposite of what I had here. So I actually realized, like when I went and approached my mother in the mirror realm, she didn't know I was from this realm. So when I went to go hug her, she was kind of like, what's wrong? Like she didn't understand why I was so happy to see her, because in this realm she had transitioned. In that realm she was still living, and then my husband in that realm, such a sweetheart. Like I almost feel like they might have extracted maybe me out of that realm or vice versa. Anyway, I actually think that the negative roost, you were stolen. This is a theory, y'all. Just stay with me. You were stolen. I don't know. You can give me a 13 give me a 1 if you feel like you don't belong here. Negative roosts, sound off. Do you feel like you don't belong here? I feel like negative roosts, they stole you from another realm. and they extracted you and brought you here to this hellish, disgusting, psychopathic realm. I think they stole you from the realm. I think that's why you don't have a lot of y'all here. I think they extracted the negative roots from the mirror realm. They brought you here, and the top tier of your the diabolical ones, they all have negative roots too. I think they took you from the realm, and I think that's why I know a lot of negative roosters, and they don't feel like this is their home. They don't. They feel like they're in a flipped realm. They stole you from the mirror realm. They stole you from the other realm, and they have you hostage in this realm. That's why it's very hard for you to mate. I'm so sorry. They're diabolical, and I can't say sorry enough. I think they're psychopaths and maniacs, and they're sickos. And they stole you. They kidnapped you from the mirror realm. Now, the good thing I can say, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I don't think it's bad, is as we're going through the convergence of the different dimensional spaces and realms, we're converging and all of them start to compound on each other. As we start to converge right and left, the mirror realm, they start to converge to 0 point. I actually think that's the 0 point is where you probably will find your home where you came from, like your match. Maybe you'll meet it again. So I think this is my theory. Now you guys can build on this theory, or you may think I'm totally a maniac. I just have a theory because I went to the mirror realm, and when I went to the mirror realm, I had totally different people living there. My mom and my husband were totally different people. So I actually think that mirror realm, that negative and positive, that's why you as a negative roost, you cannot mess with positive roost males. I actually think the hot ones, the sexy ones are living over in the mirror realm. But nonetheless, you're here in this toxic wasteland of ghetto trash, space trash. You're in a space trash world. I'm sorry. we're here in this melting pot of trash. Okay? And because you're here, I will just say stop baiting with positive roost men. They are making you sick. They're making you sick, and every time you sleep with them and they ejaculate inside of you, they will give you a cytostorm of issues. Okay? That is my recommendation. Nobody tells you that. I've seen it time and time again. The miscarriages, the sadness, the sicknesses, they're all coming from you sleeping with positive roost men that you should mate with. Now, I've met a couple, there's not as many good looking negative roost men. That's what I'm saying. I know why you get caught up with the positive roost men, because there's not many good looking. I've seen the choices. I did meet a really sexy one that was Dominican. He was really cute. Really, really cute. But needless to say, it's not many. So what I would do is I think you should probably find a place that has more negative roots, that has more options for you. Alchemically, you match them, so you should be triggered to mate with them. You should probably like be like almost like drawn to them when they're around. So I'm gonna try to find that out for you. I don't know if there's a dating site for negative roost males, but I think you guys have to stop mating with these positive roosts. It's not very good. That one I met that's Dominican, there's a lot of negative roosts in the Caribbean, and I found that out. If you like Caribbean men, I mean, it's up to you. I, yeah, they're very sexy and healthy. A lot of them. Mentally, I don't know, because everybody's unhealthy nowadays. But I met him. He's from DR. There was a lot of negative roost females I know in DR, and Haiti, and also in Bahamas, and also in Jamaica, and in Barbados, St. Kitts, I think Nevis also. I think St. Bart's. There's a couple places. I would think, and definitely in Europe, you're going to get more negative roosts. So I think if you can sea stars, brown sea stars, I know it's a little tougher for you. Lunar sea stars, you have more options that are better looking. I would just try to seek them out, and that's just my suggestion. If I find a hive of them, I will share that with you and go mate and enjoy yourself and enjoy the anemones of your negative roots. Okay. Um, just, just, I should start a website. I should, right? Anyway, Okay, so let's go into the ley lines. I just talked about the mirror world. I think a lot of you are extracted from the other realm. You will meet your realm at 0 point. So as we converge, that's where we're getting all the Mandela effects. We're getting all the things. We're merging. All the convergence is happening as we speak, as we get to reset and pole shift. Now, why it matters right now is as we go towards reset and pole shift, we are starting to rev up the ability for some of us to have an exodus out of this realm, outside of this dome, outside of this firmament, outside of this imprisoned camp. Some for learning, some for training, others for imprisonment. Okay. And I also see Willy Wonka stopping you from your migration into these other realms. So we're going to get into Chinese zodiac now. You guys ready? Because I kind of talked on the blood types, and I'm going to interrelate this with blood types and also your ley lines. Are you guys ready to go to the ley lines? I don't want to hold you too long. I know I'm going over, right? How long have I been here with you guys? Am I taking too much time? I hate to make it super long video. Okay, you ready to go to the ley lines, y'all? Okay, okay. All right, let's go. Okay, so thanks to Oracle, Oracle's in there. Oracle had a reading for GG33, and she gave us the most wonderful chart that we've been using. Now, many of you know I've been talking about astrocartography for years. Astrocartography is basically breaking down your ley lines based on your astrological field, right? Saying which positioning astrologically you sit well hemispherically that matches you if you were looking to relocate or just even to travel. What I noticed is that they have been purposefully blocking the natural migration of people, because as we get towards reset and as we get towards the pole shift, in order for you to sit on the ley line that is most advantageous for you as we go through this reset, or for ascension, or for exodus, they're blocking certain areas. So the chart that we had accrued from when Oracle, and we have this in Zoom, y'all. So if you do come from Zoom, thanks to Oracle, thank her. If you come to Zoom, you will have access to the chart that we use, because it helps us in knowing what countries or what animals and where places that we do best, along with the cartography charts. So what I noticed is that I noticed that there is a tie-in to your blood type and the hemisphere that you should be at. And when we read the book, big up to our Zoomies. This was the previous Zoom group. Ada headed this group. We had the book club interview with an alien with Errol Matilda. And we found out the recipe for leaving this realm, which literally was tied into how you came in is how you leave. And blood types and bloodlines matter. Sometimes you don't realize that we have stages like animals and the birds. You know how the birds go from north to south in different seasons and then come back in another season? We're like that. Unfortunately, these grays, hybrids, Cabbage Patch, and non-humanoids and governmental Willy Wonkas and the League of Doom have made it very difficult for us to move organically like our ancestors did without borders. Most of you have been reconfigured. And I've talked about the fact that I think that many people that are like I've talked about in art in Brazil, bigots are Brazilians. I think it's Boa Noite now. You have they remember I told you about there's two guys. They have them on posters. If you come to, I think they're still there. When I fly into Sao Paulo, I'll let you know again. I got to take a picture of it. They have two guys. One looks like Will Smith, and one looks like what's his name? Martin Lawrence. And they look just like Martin Lawrence, but in Brazil. So they got pictures of them. They look like twins. Many of you know that there's so-called slave trade was a lie. People were not extracted to Africa like they told you, which I think Africa's population has been going back and forth to this hemisphere forever, especially that we all used to be part of Pangea, right? So I don't think that to say that there's no African blood within the Americas is insidious. This doesn't even make sense, because the number one migrational group that was coming here was probably coming from that part of the world, coming back and forth without any borders. But within the last, since the 18th, maybe the 19th century, a little before 17th century or 18th century, the brown people in the Americas were actually originated there. But what they call the slave trade was actually the reconfiguration and the moving brown people from north to south, east to west, and moving them around the continent itself, meaning that majority of brown people in the Americas are from the Americas. They're just living in another hemisphere. So why do I share this with you? It's because the brown people in Brazil that have a big amount of A, they actually, I personally think that they come from North America. I actually think that a lot of our Americans that are in North America, you are actually from South or Central America. They moved your ancestors. That's also why I feel like they're not giving out any sort of compensation for any brown indigenous in North America, because I think they know that a lot of you brown Americans are actually from South America and vice versa. I think that's why, and that could just be my just building and why they wouldn't do it, is because they know that they already reconfigured, took people off of their land masses, their original ley lines, and reconfigured them throughout the Americas. I don't actually think it's a big deal, because I think, like I say, I actually think we're from the Americas. Like, it's a continent. I actually say, like, even with you guys living here, if you don't like America, like North America, I would say that you have a whole continent that you could explore. You could definitely go into Central. You could definitely go into the Caribbean. You could definitely go in South. I preference South because originally I was from there, but there's no doubt that I know from my grandmother telling me that there was a reconfiguration. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries, big up to him, when he was my professor in CCNY, I remember him giving us assignments and making us go to the RISM library. Many of you hear me talk about that over the years. In Manhattan, New York, Manhattan, for those who don't know New York, I'm from New York originally. In Manhattan, there was a library called the RISM. It moved around every 2 weeks. It was a library of all the bands and hidden books that your government did not want you to have access to. My professor, Leonard Jeffries, which many of you know, was also friends with, later on I found this out, Dr. Alim Africa, and also Layla Africa, and also with Malachi Z. York, which was one of his best friends. Remember, I went to college when I was 17, is when I met Leonard Jeffries in New York. So remember, I didn't know these people until later, right? It's all relative. Everything's all relative. He sent me to a library in my first semester, and he sent us all to a library called the RISM. Now, I don't know if it's still called that. It was a library that moved around every 2 weeks, okay? And in this library, it had all the banned and censored books from the United States and probably other places. I just accessed stuff that I needed for my class. When I would go there, it was in Manhattan, off of Madison Avenue. Big up to anyone who knows. If you know, you know. It was off of Madison at one point. I don't know where it is now. I'm sure it's still moving. And they moved the books every 2 weeks, y'all. It literally that. It was a traveling library. And when we went in, we were allowed to, we had to check in our backpacks downstairs, and we could not bring anything but a pencil and our notebook. And then we would go up to the second floor where we would go through the archives, pick out the information we wanted, and then they would bring us our books down, but we could not take any books out. Okay. So it was called the RISM Library. And there, when I found out fully that the reconfiguration of brown people was not from Africa in the way that you think, and what they perceive as Africa, y'all, is there's two parts. What they perceived as Africa, I've always talked about, Africa was denoted to be in the United States. In the United States was considered to be the old Egypt. Okay, so it's two parts. America was the old Egypt. So where they could be saying that brown people came from Africa. It could be them relabeling and um, and gentrifying a name that existed, or in the library, it also talks about the American brown people being reconfigured throughout the Americas. Okay. They showed that many people that were in Barbados had come from North Carolina. They had showed that people from um, over in Florida, a lot of them had migrated from um, one of the main places that the migrants in Florida that are living there now actually came from um, what's that? Trinidad and Tobago, and also Curacao. So there was a reconfiguration. I don't know all the. I remember, I'm a woman of a certain age, y'all. You know how long ago I got access to this book? A lot of the people were reconfigured. So that's why I tell you that I think that Willy Wonka, the reason why when people say they want reparations, they don't realize in order for them to not in the future have to pay reparations, I think it's because you think that you're going to get access to land and land that is owed to you. I don't disagree. I just think that you may not be on the ley lines that you came from. So they can get away with that because they've already removed most of the people off the mainland where they came from. Now, you could have lived in Mississippi generationally. You could have lived there for 4 or 5 generations, but your lineage could have came through South America, Venezuela, through Cuba. Many of you are coming from other places, okay? So that's just my take on it. I wanted to add that because I think, as when I go into South America very often, and I'm um, and also when you saw the map of Haiti, and Haiti literally dominated all the Americas too. That means there was another reconfiguration of brown people all through the Americas. There's so much stuff, y'all. I wish I'm gonna try to, because I know we have a lot of booknistas in here. My mom is a booknista. It's just a lot of information. There's so much that many of you who don't know, like I have access to certain things because I come from a bloodline that's a little old and we didn't mix too much. I have a lot of archives that came from my grandparents and my mom and my dad. So I have a lot of the, like some of the stuff we knew, and then all access by certain professors that weren't limited to information. Now the college system is a little different. You can't give that kind of information, I don't think. But I have information that came from that. Okay. So many of you came from those places. Like a lot of, like, if you look a lot of brown people in California, and in California and on the West Coast, do you ever see how they visually look? A lot of them look like the Mexicans further south. So I like even the brown girls, you ever look at their skin tone? A lot of them even came out of the Pacific. Remember the Pacific? I also, in one of the books, y'all, I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. I have so much information in my mind. In one of the books, there was a connection to the South Pacific people literally being brought in the mainland. Because remember, they took over the Empress in Hawaii, who looked like me. She looked literally like me. When I go to Hawaii, they always think me and my children, they always think we're Hawaiian, like natives. Okay. The South Pacificers, whenever I look at California people on the West Coast, big ups to Nikki. Nikki looks like one of the Pacificers. Remember, they didn't just configure in the Americas. In the South Pacific, like in the Hawaiian Islands and so on, you have a lot of the brown people that were from those islands that were brought into the West Coast. That's why you ever see the girls you ever see the women and the men that are brown in West Coast? They have this very unique quality. Like I can even tell a West Coast girl because I look at their complexions. It's not a complexion that is notably like from the Americas. It's almost like South Pacific. You ever see them, y'all? It's like a beautiful cute. I can't explain. West Coast gals and gentlemen, you know what I'm talking about? Like some of you have a look like Asian, like almost Asiatic Samoan, like a very beautiful look, but it's a very different complexion. Even in the way that you guys do certain things or the foods you like, it's very similar to the people of the Pacific. Remember, they didn't just reconfigure the brown people from the mainland, from the Caribbean and North and South America. They took them from the Pacifics and they brought them to the mainland so they can occupy and colonize those places as well. Okay. So, So much information. I feel like overwhelmed telling you all this. I hope I'm not overwhelming you. I'm sorry. So much information in my brain. Okay. So, why do I share this with you? Okay. All right. So, when I talked about the ley lines and where we come from, and reading the book that we read in book club a couple years ago, um, with Interview with an Alien with Errol and Matilda. Errol, which was the alien, told Matilda, "You have to return to where you came in." It's almost like playing a video game where you have to return to the beginning to get out of the space. Willy Wonka and his League of Doom have made it a really difficult task for many of you to do your natural, innate relocations. They made it very difficult purposefully, because during every reset, you go to the place where you were supposed to, and you can access that teleportation space to have your exodus out of here. Then we go into the information that GG33 had given to us with the different animals. Now, Asian culture, which I love, has held these forms of clues, and they put animals like Chinese animals in it. It resonates with astrology, right? What I noticed, because I travel a lot, I noticed that when we're going through reset, if you have a natural propensity to go to where you began, you might be drawn to the place of your ancestors, because that is uniformly where you do your exodus out of this plane of existence, this firmament, this psychopathic holographic world. I noticed a combination pattern. Now, I live in United States of America. I was born in New York, though my family's come from by way of South America. What I noticed is that I lived and I was born in a place that I was born into a country where my animal matched the animal that I had. So I'm a rat, right? Rat is my animal, my Chinese animal, and I live in a monkey country. United States is a monkey country. What makes it very interesting is that the frequency of monkey is associated with more carnal behaviors. Now, carnal low is like sex, drugs, and alcohol. Carnal high is high spirituality, occultism, and high knowledge. Okay, so there's like hierarchies to each of the animals. So there's a lower version of it high. United States is very carnal. How could you tell? Because it has a lot of sex trafficking, a lot of drug abuse. You could tell that it's a monkey country, because with the monkey country in its lowest form, in its lowest frequency, it has a residue that is lower and more carnal. Okay. For some of you, the animals that do well in a monkey country, even under the conditions, whether it's low or high, are rats who are friends to the monkey. All of the friends to the monkey do well in the United States. Generally, if you are a rat, you will do well fiscally, financially in the monkey, because it's carnal. So it has to do with the lower forms. Okay. Spiritually, you can do okay. So whoever's friends to the monkey, I forgot the friends of the monkey, y'all. Who are the friends of the monkey? Hold on. Hold on one second. Hold on now. Okay, so the dragon. Okay, so monkeys and dragons. Thank you. You did it. So Oracle's on it. Thank you, Oracle, because I'm looking on separately. I forgot Oracle's on here. So the rat and dragon do really well in the country. So if you're a rat and a dragon, you'll find that it's more cohesive for you, even under the terms that even under restraint or weirdness or perversion, rats and dragons do okay in the country. The enemy, if you are a tiger and a pig, you don't do well in the United States. A lot of tigers, I'm going to use an example. Many of you saw that, tiger who a celebrity who's a tiger is Tate, the Tate, what's his name? Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is a tiger. As soon as he entered into the United States as a tiger, he got arrested. He not only went into a tiger as a tiger of enemy to the country, he went into Miami, and Miami, I think, Oracle, isn't Miami a monkey? Miami is a monkey. So he is a tiger. He's an enemy to the country, and he flies into the enemy country. He not only flies into the enemy country, he goes into the enemy state, which is a monkey, which is Miami. Oracle, am I correct? Miami's a monkey. Okay, so do you understand? So I'm using this as an example because it's going to build what I'm going to share with you as far as it relates with your blood type, the ley lines, and as we go towards the Exodus, right? So so all the tigers living in the United States, there's a reason why financially you don't do well. There's a reason why you don't get up in level. Oh, it is a monkey, see? Okay, so Dual, he didn't have the tenacity or the mindset or the higher mind to know that astrology matters in the zodiacs when it's connected to the foundations of a country and the foundations of each of the cities. Okay, so we have the chart when we go into Zoom. If you guys ever come into Zoom with us, if you join us, you'll have access. I'll give you the chart. Okay. Oracle, thank Oracle when you come in. I'm not going to give it here, but if you come into Zoom with us, I will give you access to the chart. Oracle got it from us, and we've been using it ever since. Okay. So why does that matter? Is because if you are the animal and you are living in a place that is adverse to you, it means that that is probably not the place that you are going to leave or have your exodus. Okay. So another country that is, I could tell you certain countries, each town, each city, each state has an animal. And that's why it's good to use your cartography and use this chart to relegate. Now, the Asiatics have used this for a long period of time, and they found the matches. And y'all, I've traveled a lot, and it matches. It literally is. I've flown into rat countries and literally have been celebrated from the time I entered into the country. Okay. It is so insane that you're going to be so upset that you didn't even know this. Okay. If you're living somewhere as an enemy to your state, it can cause problems. So Florida is a snake. So is Texas. So the enemy of a snake is a pig. So if you have any pigs in here and you are living in a state of Florida or Texas, you're going to have a lot more struggles. You're going to find that you're going to have more issues living in the enemy state as that animal. Pigs generally tend to be really smart, really artistic, very they tend to like the freedom of being able to learn and do things, but they're very introverted, like pigs. So pigs living in a state where these states have most restraint and they're targeted. Okay, so it's important for you to know this. Why is because as you start to go towards reset, you're going to find that many of you are going to be drawn to states energetically, zodiac white, and blood type where you match. So let's go with A's. A's, we know that you are, now, mind you, remember I said this, an A can have an O parent, an A parent. So remember, I'm generalizing. If you have a strong dominant A, you're a dominant A, means everybody's an A. It's easier for me to blueprint you. If you're like AO, you're going to have a combination platter. If you're AB, if you're B mixed with O's, that's what I'm saying. It's combination platter. Be careful because this information, you're going to have to, that's why I say it's not good. They want you to mix with other blood types to make you alchemically not match anywhere. It's purposeful. While they make sure they only mate with their own people, their own species, their own blood types, they will have you mating chaotically, so you don't have a definitive connection anywhere. That's why I go with the matriarch, because the matriarch, the mother's line, will at least give you the extra mitochondria. So if mom was a B, you have more B in you, even if you show up as an A or O. If mom is A. You have more A in you because mom's mitochondria gives you more of her DNA. You have more of her in you. So I would go with the mom's line. So if you are an O and mommy is an A, you can go with the fact, even if dad's an O, you can go with the fact that mom is more domineering. So you might have more of a connection to the A or Europe than you do with an O, which is the indigenous Americas. Okay? Know that. And those who have Moorish blood from the European line, like Spain and Greece and Turkey and all those places, you may have a connection more to there. Okay? So, like California is a dog. I'll use one example. California is a dog. We have our homegirl, Nikki. Big up to Nikki, who's also a dog. Dogs do really well in California. California hosts dogs, even in Dog's Enemy Year, which is the dragon year. Dogs did really well, even though it was the enemy year, because it had the protection of the other pack of dogs in the energy of that ley line. It protected dogs even in the enemy year of the dragon, because dogs and dragons are enemies. Okay. And why this matters is that you may be sleeping with your enemy, y'all. And I've fact checked this, y'all. Me and the Zombies have worked on this so long. We've been doing this for a long time. It's amazing. You will find that sometimes you don't realize that you may have been sleeping or dating, or you're working at a job that's your enemy energy. Like some of your cars are created in your enemy year. And you're wondering why you're crashing the car all the time, but you don't realize that car alchemically is not matching you because it's your enemy sign in the year it was founded, and your sign doesn't match it. So it's very, very important. That's why I say GG33 had did a good job. And Oracle, big up to Oracle, she's the reason why we have the chart. Okay. So when we go into like ley lines and so on, as we get closer to reset, you may be having a craving to relocate or move to a part of the hemisphere that matches you energetically. You are now reaching the precipice of you naturally having an immigration, you wanting to migrate to your ancient mounds, your ancient ley lines. And because Willy Wonka and the League of Doom have access to this very thing, they know the different animals, they know the Chinese astrology, they know the cartography, they know genealogy, they know your blood types, they know your lineage, they know your ley lines. They have made it a point to put blockages towards people. So when you saw all these South Americans coming from Central and South America into the Americas, did you even think that maybe they're getting this natural intuitive feeling to migrate to the ley lines of their ancestors? Just like you're seeing a lot of American brown women, big up to the American brown women in Colombia, over in Panama, over in Ecuador, Brazil, you're starting to see a lot of brown women from the Northern Hemisphere doing a natural progression over into Central and South America because they're following that cue. And as they're going there, they're finding that their lives are easier. They're probably going to animals that are alchemically matching them, and they're having an easier time. Their health is getting healthier. Money is coming to them easier. They have more peace. That's why it's important for you to match energetically the places, people, and things around you. You could be mating with your enemy. If you're a dog and you're mating with the dragon, you're going to have a host of issues. It doesn't say you can't match. It's not saying you can't go above and beyond, but you're going to have some contention in that relationship. Me as a rat, it would only be conducive for me to mate with a monkey. That's why you didn't even notice I have this thing with monkeys. And that's why some of you say, oh, well, she likes Rod Hayes. What is Rod Hayes' China's astrology, y'all? What is his astrology? He is a monkey who is a friend to the rat. Okay? So you see what I'm saying? Like sometimes you're drawn to people who match you. So when you guys see us talk together, what do you say? Oh my God, alchemically, you guys have so much chemistry. We have now. I want to share that with you because now you'll understand the chemistry is also coming because alchemically we're matching in zodiac frequency. Okay, so that's why you see that. If he ends up doing another podcast with someone who's his enemy sign, right? The monkey is not good with the pig or the tiger. He's probably going to not like them. He's probably going to have more contention, and then you'll see that alchemical non-match. Okay, so it's important for you to now begin to overstand and understand internally how you may be having this hemispheric pull to move into a location which will help you lift or ascend outside of here or be in a higher level of the reset and the pole shift. So they're going to project things to you to make you not move. So they're going to put visas on places that you shouldn't go. They're going to put more wars in places that they don't want you to move to. Any places that are more moved to war or negative things, it's purposefully done so that you are not motivated to go to those places. There's a couple of hotspots now. I'm not going to discuss it online. There's a couple of hotspots that I know are purposeful for brown people to do their exodus. So they will put a negative spin so brown people don't go there. Okay? So when we have A's, where do boars go? Where do boars go? That's cute. That's cute. Ox. You're ox and you're Taurus. So guess what an ox country is? I have an ox. And guess when I flew to Bahamas, guess what my little ox was like? Oh my God, I love it here. I love it here, mommy. I love it here. It feels so good. It's an ox country. Bahamas is an ox country. What is another ox country? Costa Rica. So you may like to be in these places where you hemispherically, where you match energetically. So now you have a place like an ox country, and every time you go, they're like, oh my God, I do so well. I love it there. Oh my God, it feels so good here because it's an ox country and you're an ox. Okay. Oxes are very like fours. They match a four energy. They're very righteous. They're very intuitive. They believe in being right. They believe in being righteous. They'll stand up for things. They'll stand up for people's rights. They'll stand up for what's good for the collective. They're very just people in their behavior. Okay. So you match that energy. Okay. Jamaica is a tiger. Jamaica's bruck up. So if you are a monkey, you may definitely not want to go to Jamaica. You may have an accident when you go to Jamaica. If you're in Jamaica, big up to my family in Jamaica and St. Anne, St. Catherine, over in Negril. Okay. You may not want to go as a monkey and you go into a tiger because tigers are bruck up. You ever meet a tiger? Y'all who are tigers, y'all are bruck up. Tigers like to fight. If you ever look at your fighters, I bet you a lot of them are tigers. A lot of tigers are very strong, very physical. They like to fight. They're very physical. Like, put them up. You know, like Tigger, put them up. Put them up. They're like that. If you go to a tiger place, you will see that energy is really bruck up, very aggressive. Okay. So, look at all the animals here with tigers. So tigers, if you're living in the United States, this is my suggestion. I would move from the United States. This is your enemy country. You're going to have a very difficult time living in a country that is against you. And you may have accrued for you to be born into a country that's your enemy. You may have accrued some karma in past lives where you were reversed to where you were. So now you were anti to something. So now you're born into a world of your enemy. Okay. So it's important now as we're going to 0 point that you find alchemically where you match. And what I found is if you're an A and another ox country is Ireland, right? Another ox country is Ireland. If you're an A and you are an ox, alchemically, you're going to match a country where your blood type is matching the lineage that was there. And then also a country that housed the mounds. Those mounds, we know that Matilda left out of the mounds in Ireland because the mounds are energetic portals or where they get teleportation ports. So teleportation ports are like there. So it's very good for you to move to a place where you can portal out of those places where your ancestors came from. So I talk about A's. A's are Europeans. So if you know that you were an animal, like even with Russia, which Russia's a goat. Russia's a goat. So Russia, if you're an A and you're also a goat, alchemically, you might be drawn towards Russian art. You might be drawn towards Putin. You may be rooting for Putin to win because you feel a connection to that place. Okay? So it's important, like as a goat and Russia's a goat, you may feel more in sync to the people there. Okay? So I actually think that hemispherically, a lot of you are getting motivated to move and to relocate to places that match you. And because that's necessary for, and this is my opinion, now it doesn't mean you have to leave the country. If you're living in a country like a monkey and you're a dragon or a rat, this may be a teleportation site for you. A monkey, a rat, or a dragon, this could be a teleportation place for you. You may be able to leave here and to move into places like that. Like Rooster, you're Aries. So Aries, what's your blood type? Aries, you're fiery, and you like to show off. You like a rooster, like very. You like to look fancy, like pretty. You like to look people to look at you, like to be adored. So Rooster, you know that what is it? Bolivia, I think, is a rooster. Bolivia is a rooster, and Bolivia might be a place that you thought. There's other rooster places, but I'm using Bolivia as one place I know. Okay, they're very cocky. They like to show, like it's like cocky, right? They like to show. Okay, there's ads on my thing. I'm so sorry, Eyes Koa. Why are they doing ads? They never used to do ads during my live, yo. I think that's what I'm saying. Willy Wonka's League of Doom don't like when I do videos like this. So remember, animals matter, ley lines matter, and if you're having migrational push to go to certain places, it may be coming from your ancestral need to be in a ley line of your ancestors so that you can level up to the higher plane of so. And remember when you heard Rod Hayes saying he don't feel a need to leave? You know why he says that, right? This is just me knowing his animal. You know why he says that? Because he's in the country that his animal is. So he is in home court advantage in a monkey country. And it's probably his portal site where he feels comfortable. This is his ley line. This is his monkey's lair. Okay. Hawaii is a pig. So if you feel like Hawaii is a pig, even though it's the United States, but Hawaii doesn't consider itself that. It still holds pig energy. Okay. Snakes, you do well in Florida and also in Texas. Okay. Then you have to go not only with state, you go with city. And certain things that you eat have an energy of an animal, things like that. So when you really get involved in the energy that the Asiatics have done to create this system, to be able to give you clues on where and how you should proceed, this is how we kind of are able to, find the blueprint of our own existence and finding a place where we may want to teleport into a new higher realm or outside of the firmament. Okay. All right. Dogs, you have one of the prettiest countries as a dog. France is a dog. France is a dog. So for those who like to go to France, if you ever crave French stuff, and you'd be like, why am I craving to go to France? I don't feel like, because you're a dog. And who's best friends with dog? Horses. So horses and dogs, y'all are homies. We got two in our group. Big up to Delmache and Nikki. They are two peas in a pod. One's a horse and a dog. They got along like nothing. They got along so well. So horses, you do well wherever dogs are. And dogs, you do where horses do. So horse, you do well in California because that's a dog state. That's your homie's place. So you do well in places where dogs do. Same horses, right? Okay. Italy is a dog too. Oh my God, Italy as well. So you may have. So if you're A, and you have a dog, oh my God, or a horse. That look Delmache. Delmache is so French. Delmache is not French. So mind you, I'm French, right? But Delmache is so French. She has a French name. She's a horse, and guess what? She does well in Paris. So it's crazy that even her name is French, even though she's not French, but her energy is a horse. This is why I'm saying it's all relative. Okay. So I think it's so crazy, right? Is that it? I've talked so much, y'all. I think I'm tired of talking. This fraud nation straight up is a damn zoo. I agree, it is a zoo. It is. So anyway, y'all, I think I'm done. I talked so much. I think I'm done. It's 5:35. I gotta get ready. I want to go dancing. So let me see. But again, if you wanted more of the chart, come get the chart. You come to Zoom. That's how you get the chart. We make our choices in our group based on this. Like even with your interface, like you may be sleeping with your enemy. If you're a horse and you're sleeping with a rat, don't do it, right? They'll bring strife to you. If you're a dog, you shouldn't be sleeping with a dragon. If you're a goat, you shouldn't be messing with an ox, right? If you're a rooster, who's the enemy to the rooster? Who's the enemy to the rooster? I forgot who's the enemy. I forgot who's the enemy of the rooster. I just pay attention, y'all. So I hope this was helpful. I think I did an okay job. If you want to know more, I think I did blood. I hope I did it, y'all. I talked about a lot. I hope I gave you a lot of information. Let me know. Thank you, my loves. Oh, rabbit. Okay, rabbit. Rabbit's your enemy. I didn't know. All right, y'all. I gotta go. I gotta go. I'm gonna change my top, and it's starting to rain, so I want to be able to get out of here quickly. All right. So I hope it was helpful. Please, please put a like on the video if you like the information. If you like me to do more videos like this, I like to do it. I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot in my brain. Not everything. There could be a lot more things I could learn, but there's certain things I learned in my primary years that are very relative now. But if you want to know more, and also add your comment or your opinion. I'm always open to be respectful. If you don't like the information, it's fine. It's not necessary that you listen to it. Sometimes, like I said, I'm not a doctor or nurse, but I just know things from my primary years, things that I've learned through time, and things I've learned just from having access to a lot of people. Okay, so I'm gonna go dancing, y'all. Wish me luck. I'm gonna have fun. They got drums over there too. All right, so I'm out of here. Leave a comment. Definitely put a like on the video, and if you like the content, let me know. All right, so I'll see you guys later. Peace.